All right, guys, this next guest, he's a real good brother, man. You guys seem to have loved our first interview, so I had to bring him back for his second interview, all the way from the Terror Squad multiverse, Smooth the Engineer.
What's up, Panda? You my dude,
What's
man.
good, bro? How you doing today, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm in good spirits. I'm here for you, man. What's up?
Man, our interview blew up. Were you expecting that?
Nah, I wasn't expecting none of that. That was crazy. When you told me, I was like, wow, it wasn't supposed to happen the way it happened, but hey, that's the universe, right? Timing is everything.
Right.
Yeah, so
it is, man. I mean, come on, you've been out the game for how long, and all of a sudden you being mentioned on Lord Jamar's podcast, Tariq Nasheed, so many other channels.
Yeah.
And you know what? They didn't credit me for a lot of that stuff too, man. You know.
Yeah. That
they cut out my logo and everything.
I saw that they even tried to speed it up so it could seem like it was somebody else, but you know.
Right, I started commenting on a lot of people's page. I'm like, yo, man, you guys could use my stuff. Just give me credit. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna strike your page or do anything. You know.
They were mentioning you. I did hear a couple of brothers mention, yo, you know, This is from Panda Chop. So that's love.
Yeah, that's love, man. And especially Tariq end up like really giving me a shout out in the end, you know. But yo, so before we get into the whole Joe and FBA stuff, right? When we did our interview, before all of that stuff popped off, you know, before even my interview with Cuban, I just asked you, yo, what was your experience with Joe? And not even on that race stuff, but you came out and you spoke about that experience. And it was interesting because it was like, I wasn't even thinking you was going to go there. Like, you know, like I was just going to be like, oh, you probably saw that maybe he was like shiesty with money or something like that, you know, but I didn't even think that was going to be what your experience was. The first time I watched that clip, I just thought that you said Joe had said morenos, but then I realized that you had said moyos, right? Yeah. And then there's a derogatory term for that. So did anybody hit you up about seeing you on YouTube?
Yeah. I had a couple people that, again, people that I know and some people that I barely know, but, you know, in passing, spoke about seeing me on Panda Chop, you know, and that it showed up and it was something that they were interested in and they watched it, you know. So going back to that comment, it was a comment that stuck out to me. I mean, you got to say for 20 years now, and it was still fresh on my mind, exactly verbatim, word for word, what was said. And yeah, it was because of that, I think that derogatory term, you know, that really stuck out to me. And it wasn't something that I said to get any, you know, backlash on his behalf or anything. It was just the honest truth of what, you know, had happened at that moment. And just so happened to be
right, because like you was like, you was holding back at first. I remember you was holding back, and then you were like, you know what? I'm gonna just keep it funky with you, because I was like, well, was it pro, you know, Latino or was it racist? And then you was like, you know what? Yeah, you said the thing.
It was like, yeah, you know, I had to be as realistic as it was for the moment that it felt for me when I heard it. And, you know, I was trying, like you said, I was trying to like be cordial about it. That's just my nature. I'm not trying to, you know, harm or hurt anybody. I'm just speaking the truth. So when that occurred and, you know, I said what I said, to see it go where it went was like crazy to me, because I'm like, wow. Again, timing. He said what he said that made that relevant for the times now. So, you know.
Right. And we gonna get into that too. But when that first happened with Joe, did you talk to anyone else in TS about it? Like, yo, what's up with him saying that? Or
nah.
Did you talk to anyone?
I didn't really speak to anybody about that ever. That was like my first time ever really, like, you know, mentioning that. That was something that I just held in my heart and my mind, like saying to myself, like, that was crazy. And I remember the feeling I felt at that moment, like, that was crazy. I can't believe that I just, you know, witnessed that. And it was because of, you know, the comfortability. So, yeah, that was my first time speaking about that, man. Like, that was a one-off that just stuck with me. And, you know, you had the perfect opportunity and platform at the time. You asked the right question, and hey, truth came out.
See that, guys? We provide a safe space here for people to be talking about things.
Yeah.
Yo, so was that the only time that you heard him say something like that though?
Yeah, that was the only time that I heard that. I mean, that's probably why it
Mm-hmm.
stuck out so much. Again, I didn't spend a lot of time around him. Excuse me. I did have a lot of moments around TS, different members, different reasons of being around them inside and outside of the studio, but I didn't spend a lot of time around him. So maybe that's probably why it stuck out so much as well, because it was just like one of those moments that it was intimate with him, and it was one of very few moments, and that's what was said that showed part of his persona and personality.
Right. It left a lasting impression.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I know because of our interview, you and Cuban got to reconnect after like 15 years or something like that, right?
yeah.
How did that conversation go?
It was like riding the bike, man. It was like you never forget. Like this is my brother. Like I talked to him here and there over the years, very briefly, but nothing that was actually like consistent. Now we keep a
Mm-hmm.
conversation consistent. We speak on a regular basis, and again, I had reached out to you and I was speaking to him because of what I saw you doing with him. And we just reconnected and like we never lost any time. You know what I'm saying? We could be on the phone sometimes for an hour, 2 hours and have to tell each other like, yo, that's enough. We've been talking long enough. I got things to do, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, but that's always been the situation with me and, my brother, man. He's just always been down to earth like family, man. I love the brother.
Yeah. Man, shout out to Cuban, man,
Yeah,
for
shout
real.
out to my brother Q.
All right. So Fat Joe versus the FBA, right? Joe appeared on Math Hoffa's podcast and they started talking about the hip hop was created 50-50 by blacks and Puerto Ricans. And he called the FBA black radical racist. Then he said they are some broke N words. What was like your immediate reaction when you saw him say that?
Well, first and foremost, I didn't even know what FBA was. That was something that when I heard it, I was like, what? What are they talking about? So when I started researching and studying, I said, I think he took it a little out of context for what it stands for. Foundational Black Americans, or Black Americans that were born here, first, second, third, fourth generation, whatever, didn't come from another place, as in the Caribbean or whatever. They're just born here and they're straight up Americans. Okay, we crossed that road now. Now he made it sound like when he was saying it, like if it was like this faction of people that rallied together as a coalition to go against, the hip hop community or whatever. And that's not the case. I understand what FBA is now that I've studied it. That's just saying that we were here, we were in the ghettos, we were in the streets, and we now created this culture that we now call hip hop. It was shared amongst many people at the time, basically being Black and Hispanic. But the point that I think a lot of people are failing to realize is the forefront leaders that were actually making moves and sacrificing and not really making money just to put this culture on the platform were Black and Hispanics, but more Blacks when it came to mainstream. So I don't want to take away from the culture of us sharing it. We do share it. I feel that we share it. I just feel like what's happening politically is people are starting to differentiate of who was the mainstream people that opened up the doors versus the people that were grassroots in the street making the culture the culture. So it's two sides to it. You got underground, which is people that are, out there breakdancing, DJing, rhyming, MCing, doing their thing. And at the same time, you got people that are opening doors, that are getting record deals, and that are actually making a living out of this culture. So at that time, when it was the beginning stages, there were only a few brothers that were actually making a living off of what they loved, hip hop. That's where I think it's getting a little convoluted. Those people were the people that opened the doors for us to make money and to be seen on a platform that you couldn't be seen on unless you were in the streets doing it. Now, in the streets doing it, it was both cultures mingling, making it happen. So I think a lot of people get caught up trying to pick one side over the other. We were all doing it, but the mainstream for a long time was really just the brothers getting in the door for whatever reason. I don't know. Labels might have just been seeing that, and we were just being the popular people at the time that were in the forefront of it. Your Curtis Blows, your Run DMCs, those forefront brothers, your Grandmaster Flash and Furious Fives. So when you take it and you look at it in a nutshell, you're gonna want to pick a side, but you got to look at the whole like grassroots of it. There's people in the
Right.
street that are actually cultivating the culture, and there's people in the industry that are taking it to a business level. And that's where the FBA situation to me started getting a little confusing for people. They started trying to pick sides and figure out, well, we did this, you did that, you weren't here, we were there. Unless you were there, you can't say who was doing what, and there's a lot of brothers that have been stepping up. I can mention a couple names that I've witnessed that, have said, I was there and we were doing a lot of the legwork, in the mainstream standpoint.
So in regards to the FBA though, right? Because the whole situation with Joe going at the FBA is over the whole 50-50 argument that he's been pushing for a long time. Like he was upset that, somebody, Tariq Nasheed came out with that documentary Microphone Check and was was disproving what he was saying with the 50-50 argument. And I think that Joe didn't choose his words very carefully when he was on Math Hoffa's podcast. He was speaking out of emotion.
Oh,
Because by definition, FBA, like you were saying, like is your lineage, and a lot of people, that applies to a lot of people, right? So when he said his comments, he was talking really about a small fraction of people within that group that has been going at him, going at him online and on social media and stuff like that. So instead of saying it the way that he did, he should have been more specific and careful with his words, because now it was like interpreted like, oh, he dissing all Black people that are within this lineage, when he was really talking about this fraction of people that he has had, this back and forth with.
I agree. I mean, and him calling them broke ass niggas, that was a very malicious comment itself, Um, Listen, man, people show their personality and their character sometimes in their weakest moments. That was a weak moment, I think, on his behalf by saying it the way he said it. You're on a platform, you're a person that has a voice that people are watching and listen to, and you just sitting here defacing, even if you thought it was just those dudes, right? Let's say that was it. You were just talking to those people. That's the way you come at them. That's the rhetoric you want to pump out here on that platform. And that's why the backlash is what it is right now. Because it's like that wasn't, politically correct for him, a person in his position, to say something on that level to these people that he might have been speaking to you, like you said, outside of the foundational Black individuals that we are actually using FBA to talk about. So if he wanted to come at them personally, he should have just singled them out and said what he needed to say to each one of those individuals on that platform. That's how I feel about it.
Right. And I think that, like within a group, there are always people that, may be a little bit more into certain beliefs and stuff like that. Like not everybody is going to subscribe to like 100% of everything, right? It's just like in religion, some people take certain things a little bit more serious, but you're both Catholic or something. You're
Good
both
point.
Christian
Yeah,
or
good
something,
point.
But yeah, so then like some people may be considered more extreme, but that doesn't mean that everybody is the same. Like that's not a representation for all people or within that
Yeah.
group, by definition. And I think that the way that he had put it out there made it seem like everyone that belonged to this group is that way. And now we're seeing the backwards reaction of that, where people are like, well, Joe is the representation for all Puerto Ricans or all Latinos. And people, they are all like this. They're all racist. They all feel the way that he does, and
No,
that's not right. Because I really dislike blanket statements like that because it's
no,
never
that's
true. You know what I mean? Like, it's like stereotypes might have like a little bit of truth to it, but it's always like blown out of proportion. It doesn't apply every single time. And I think that that's like the real bad thing about this situation. Like you said, he did address Lord Jamar, but if he wanted to address Tariq Nasheed, which it seemed like that's what he really wanted to do, he should have just did that, you
yeah,
know? And there are people that follow these people more seriously than
yeah,
others.
yeah, and they all have a following. So, it's kind of like bad for the culture too, man. Like, at the end of the day, be- now this has started a division where it shouldn't have been any division to begin with. We all, like, the culture has now become so multifaceted. And now the division has become something new because of these comments that people are looking, oh, who did this, who did that, And I think, like I said, when you're on a platform like that and you have that kind of power, you got to watch what you say and think about what you say before you do it. You can't really just spit out whatever rhetoric you feel is, your emotions, like you said. He got very emotional at that time and spoke about maybe some other people, but made it this general comment. And now look, here we are. It started like this little war back and forth with all these different, thoughts of who did this and who did that. That we shouldn't be talking about any of that diversity. It's so diverse in this culture. Like, oh well, we created. Come on, man. This is now bigger than just black and Hispanic.
I get where the FBA are coming from in the sense of like, okay, like history is constantly being rewritten, right? So they just want the truth out there. So, it hip hop is I believe it is FBA culture. They really did create it, as far as like the inception, right?
Yes.
Latinos came in and were the earliest first participants and helped elevate the culture. And hip hop would not be what it is today without other cultures coming in and making it worldwide. That's why it's as big as it is, right? Because it's everywhere. Literally the
Yes.
most influential, strongest culture, transcends color lines, everything, right?
Can I back up one of your points of what you're saying? I don't mean to cut you off, but when we were growing up, there were no Latin rappers. There were just a lot of black rappers that we all looked up to as legends. And all the legends, I hate to say it that way, were black rappers. You didn't really have any Latin rappers until you had the Fat Joes and the Big Puns. You know what I'm saying? And there was a few others prior before them, but it was just such a handful. So that's why, yes, the FBA, we listen, the culture is the culture because a lot of black people stepped up and made it what it is. And that's it. That's bottom line. And you want to say the doors were closed on Latin Brothers? It was. Because, like you said, the inception was just to see another brother doing what he does with his talent and making something like it was creativity. Back then, it was you had to be on top of your game. You had to be creative, and you had to be the swaggerlicious dude that was bringing something different to the table. Nobody was biting. There was no biting allowed. Not like now where everybody just rides a wave and follows what everyone else is doing. There was
Right,
no
right.
biting allowed. You had to be different and had to be your own. And that's what made hip hop what it is today. So the foundation is from what we know it to be.
Right. And so, and that's why, because like black people have created so many different things in America, right? Specific, if you just even talk about music wise, so many genres have been taken over, and the face of that genre, like rock and roll. When you say rock and roll, it's not like you think of a black dude anymore. You think about some white guy with long hair, pretty much, right? Like just that's like the stereotypical image that pops up. And so I think that there's
Some
a
people's
love.
favorite songs were made by black artists, and then it was just a white artist that covered it and made it pop. But prior to that, it was the black artist that created a lot of these hits
Right. But
from
what
a lot of these well-known artists.
But what I'm saying though is like I think that now that we've come to hip hop, it's like we don't they don't want that process to happen again where history is rewritten, or like the face of hip hop. When you think of it, you think of, a white guy. You want it still to be a brother. You still want it to represent where this came from. So I understand the level of sensitivity that comes with that, because it's like, dang, everybody trying to come in and always take from us, right? As much
There's
as we've given
advantages.
and opened up. So I understand that perspective. But for Latinos, I understand their perspective too, where it's like, hey, like, don't erase all the contributions that we did make over the years too. It's just like, you have to be specific in what you're talking about when you talk about this topic. Are we talking about contributions along the way? Are we talking about the literal inception at, the moment that this was, so you just have to be
Yeah.
very specific in what you're saying, because the FBA, they're saying that all these elements existed prior to 1973 when it was finally joined together and considered that this is hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, people were dancing, doing breakdance moves before, graffiti, all this stuff. Hip hop was born out of James Brown, right? So like, there's these different things. So it's just more of like, I
Trying to cover
understand.
half a century of history,
Right.
it's going to be a very hard process. You got to depict every moment. It's 50 years, yeah.
Right.
So that's the problem.
Now, as far as what Joe was saying with the whole broke thing, I hate how people try to do that these days, where it's like, oh, like, if I call you broke, that makes you less of a person or something like that, because if you look at it, most of the people in the world is going to be like, not the rich class isn't that big of a percentage compared to people that are working, hard workers, like middle middle class or lower class or struggling. Most of his supporters are going to be quote unquote what you consider broke. Like, how do you define broke? Like, people that just live paycheck to paycheck, that aren't able to go on vacation whenever they want, buy these expensive things that hip hop advertise. You know what I'm saying? Like, so for him to say that, it's like, bro, like, you're dissing pretty much your entire supporters. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, it's
yeah, I agree.
the majority of your supporters. And I noticed that, like, a lot of people, when they get into arguments with people, they kind of use that rhetoric, or like, well, I did more numbers than you, or I did this. Like, I think at the end of the day, people need to realize that just because you have more money doesn't mean that you're a better person than me, or like, like these different things. Like, because there's so many people that have money, but they're terrible people. So it's like, at the end of the day, what are you really trying to say?
Listen, I agree with everything you're saying. Most people that are influential aren't people that have financial stability or money. There's smart people out there that are philosophical. They got all kinds of, mental. They just ain't got the economic standpoint to be, in the place that he's in. Now, think about this. He wasn't in this position his whole life. He was only in this position, and I hate to say it, because he got with some people that actually elevated him to another level. Now, he was hustling, doing whatever, getting by for a long time. Let it be known, there's a lot of rappers out there that ain't making money. They're not making money, but they're legendary people. They didn't really get a big check. They're legendary people. Does that make them less of a rapper than what they were? No, they still were geniuses at their talent, their art form. So why does money now matter? Because now you've been blessed with that opportunity to have some paper. I know people that got, all kinds of money you would never know. And that's most millionaires. They walk around like Joe Schmo. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know they're not blinging. That's the hip hop culture that they
We
put that
wear
out there.
our money, basically.
And listen, it makes no sense, man, for a lot of, like, listen, you put on all the jewels, right? You got all this, you got the Broly, you got this and that. Do you got land? Are you teaching your foundation, your people, how to be successful in building an equitable situation for the next generation? When you wearing $300,000 on your neck, and some people, got property that's worth $3 million, and they walk down the street like Joe Schmo. It doesn't make sense. That's the culture, though. The culture has perpetuated this image that you gotta wear all this gaudy jewelry and you gotta be this and that and act like you got more than, and had the $1,500 jeans. Yeah, that's cool. When you got money to burn, that's cool, right? But where is it going? Like that's a pair of jeans you're gonna wear 2 times. What are you showing for your people to make them elevate to the next level and to get out of this society that we've been in for so long? You've been stuck in this for so long because that's where it was built that way. It was built so that you could be stuck in a bubble. Now you got the opportunity to take people out and bring everyone in your family to another level. What's this broke stuff about? I feel like the people that are doing that are the broke people. It's the people that are enriching people that are the real rich people. It doesn't have anything to do with money. It's about knowledge and giving to the community to make it better for everyone to be able to succeed and do better for the next generation. So all that, man, looking, fly and all that's fine. You got to look good when you go out, right? But you don't got to spend $1 million on jewelry just to show the next brother that you did it.
Another thing I do want to point out that Joe has done things in the community to help people, right? Like I've seen him give back and give backpacks to kids, all types of stuff, right? But
coats, yeah,
right. But when you saying something like this, you're talking about the exact group that you're helping. Then when you're calling people broke and stuff, you know what I'm saying? So that's like it's an interesting irony in him saying stuff like that. But you got to look at also throughout his career, it hasn't always just been a steady incline. He's had ups and downs, right? There's been times where there was that tax evasion situation. He didn't have money to pay all that back and he had to go to prison for 4 months or whatever, right? So it's like, what it's like. You started at the bottom. You know what it's like to not have money. You've had ups, you have had downs and stuff. So for him to say something like that, I didn't understand it,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we got so many entertainers that went to that level, becoming gazillionaires, having all this money and then drop right back down to earth, but they've been humble the whole time throughout the process. That's something that we got to, look at as well. Like, how come this guy can make maybe 10 times more than you and never say anything like that and always be supportive of people? And he's been through the same situation, came from the bottom to the top, back down, and now leveled out to be back to the top again. I don't understand. That's just that's a character flaw, man. That's a character flaw. Like, you get it, you got it, you good. Okay, that's cool. But to talk down to people just because you feel like they're not financially as stable as you, again, like you said, these are people that support you. The reason why you got this money is because of these people supporting you. It's not all rich people that are in your circle that are buying your records. They're not buying nothing. It's us. It's the people that are on the grassroots level that are like, yo, I like this brother. Let me follow him. Let me support. Let me buy a hat. You know what I mean? People I see with their apparel on, that wasn't a big thing before. But now people are supporting because they feel like this is somebody that came from where I came from. And then now you're going to sit there and shit on them and say, hey, well, you ain't as rich as me. Yeah, but you rich because of me.
I think that it's kind of surprising that he hasn't come out and apologized for his comments or like at least tried to smooth it over a little bit. Instead, like he's made posts on Instagram that have been more like, well, fuck you. Like he's like, throwing up the middle finger and like all these different things, So it's like humility goes a long way, bro. Showing that you can be humble, that showing that, you can admit to when you've made a mistake and everything. And this is the most backlash we've ever seen him receive. I've never seen him receive this much backlash before, right? So it's really surprising that he couldn't just come out and be like, you know what, I have a problem with this person saying this, but my words affected a lot of people that I didn't mean it to. Like, that's it. It's not like him saying like I was wrong about the whole thing, but he could have did something like that.
Like I've seen him apologize on different levels for different reasons, right? And I think that the arrogance has gotten, the best of him in this situation because those other situations that I believe he apologized in were because people on a high level were like, listen, this ain't cool. You gotta, you gotta fix this. I don't think anyone's checking him right now. I think right now he's just on a cloud and he's floating and he feels like he's never going to come down.
But I bet you if he wasn't with Rock Nation though, he would be apologizing. But, you know, Rock Nation has really helped propel him to another level of fame, right?
That power, yeah. Yeah, that power. You get that power. But listen, man, listen, I don't like to be cliches, but everybody has their day, right? His day is like, really, he's making his day. No one's creating it. He's creating it for himself. He's going to create a problem again, because now if you don't apologize, if you don't come out and justify saying that I was wrong, hey, look, I might have said this for that reason or that, then the people are going to at some point get fed up. I'm looking at some of these videos. I don't even know. Like, I saw the booing in Chicago,
Right.
and I'm like, but then I see people saying, hey, he wasn't even there. So I'm like, okay, either way, I hear people booing.
Yeah, some
Wherever he
people
was
said
at.
that the booing was added to that video of him performing. I don't know if that's true or not. You know what I
Me
mean?
neither.
But you know, what about him stepping down from BET though? Because he hosted the award show for the last 3 years, right? So I'm wondering if behind the scenes they say, yo, you got to apologize or you got to step down. He tried to make it seem like, yo, I'm just stepping down because I want to give other people a chance.
Opportunity,
yeah, right. But I don't think so.
An arrogant person that would say what he said
Right.
and act the way he acts is actually going to be humble enough to step down from that type of situation. That doesn't sound realistic to me.
Well, how many times have you seen him apologize? The only time I've really seen him apologize was for the Lil Mo and Vita situation for calling them some dusty bitches. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the
so
only
that's
time.
the only one that I got in my mind as well. So we're on the same page.
Right. That's like the only time I've seen him do that.
Yeah. From the battle, you know, that was it.
Right.
That
the
was
verses.
It.
And even Ja Rule was surprised. He was all like, I'm surprised you calling these women all these stuff. You know?
And again, that's almost the same character that we seeing right now. It's the same thing. They ain't have nothing to do with nothing. You just bringing some people into the situation and make yourself look bigger and better.
Yeah, I know. But all right. So what did you think about Math Hoffa not checking his comments? Because he got a lot of backlash for that too.
Yeah, I think he's in a position, right, where he has a platform that people look for, like they listen to him and they follow him. So it's one of those things, like if you speak about it, you make yourself guilty. If you don't speak about it, you can seem to be guilty, but you're not making yourself guilty. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he said certain things, he has to play both sides. Now he's going to destroy a relationship he has and make himself look vulnerable, and he doesn't look like he really knows what he's doing. So I think by being quiet, he leaves it up to the people to pick and choose if they want to continue to follow. Well, he wasn't quiet.
He laughed, though. He laughed when he called them broke.
And then didn't he pull it down? Like he kind of
he took down the video and then for like 2 days and then he put it back up. And on Vlad TV, he was all like, oh, I messed with the people. I took it down for a little bit. I put it back up. Why would you take it down for? That video was blowing up. It should have got so many more views than that.
That was damage control. Somebody listen. And it got to a point with the damage control where it felt like if I continue to do this, I'm going to make myself vulnerable. So let me just act like it wasn't that bad. And if I act like it wasn't that bad, people are going to forget about it and I can move on. That's the way I feel about it.
I think that he realized, though, that it was too late because people had that clip everywhere. So he was like, well, shit, I might as well eat off of this anyways and put it back up.
Good publicity, bad publicity, still publicity.
But he was defending Joe on I think on his live stream or on Vlad. He was saying that, you know, Joe came on my channel before and it helped it elevate and stuff. So I didn't feel like I should check him, basically something along those lines. Right. So it definitely was for like a political reason. Like, yo, my relationship with him, I don't want to make it seem a certain way. Like if I come across a wrong way for checking him or, you know what I mean? But I don't know. Like it definitely wasn't a good look in the end.
So these people are not journalists. These people are brothers off the street that have a platform and social media to just speak, right? So at the end of the day, a journalist has to have integrity and they have to speak on what's true and defend that and step on whatever is not true. He doesn't need to do that. He's just a guy that was a battle rapper that got a platform that blew up for him to speak and sit down and have people talk with him. So at the end of the day, he really doesn't have any credentials to say to himself, listen, I gotta live by this integrity, this type of integrity that journalists live by. He can live by street, integrity. He can live
Right.
by hip hop rap integrity. He can live by the battle rap, whatever. But he's not technically a journalist. He just sits down with people and lets them speak their story. So I think that's where a lot of people are forgetting that, like, if this was real journalism, somebody's checking you. Who's checking him? He's the boss.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you can say whatever you want to say, put up on whatever platform. If people follow me, they follow me. If they don't, they don't. He ain't got nothing to worry about,
But that's why we're in a weird space now, right? Right, with content creation and everything, because everybody has a podcast, everybody's doing interviews and everything, but people didn't go to school for journalism. So there's not those like certain things like you're talking about, journalistic integrity that you have to abide by, or even just instinct, right? Because like as a journalist, you feel that instinct of like, I'm doing something so wrong if I don't do this. Like
you
if
gotta
I
have ethics,
right.
some type of ethics and morals to actually make you do the right thing and not do the wrong thing. Now, not to say you're not a moral person if you're doing what you're doing, but you're doing it for the wrong reasons. That's where ethics comes into play. You're doing this just because you have an economical platform, right? And at the same time, sometimes people just get caught up with the egos. Like, listen, I'm that dude. This is my world. My world is my world, and nobody can stop me from doing what I do. That's what social media is created for a lot of people that are doing this content creations. They just, who's going to tell me what I can't say and what I can't do?
Right.
You know?
It's
And
interesting though, the angle that some people are taking, saying that Math knew exactly what he was doing and he set up Joe. I don't think that's true. I think that it just happened to happen the way that it did, and he didn't say anything to check Joe, and it just happened that way, But I don't think that he came out and was like planning from the beginning, yo, I'm gonna have a viral moment by having Joe speak about this and catch
yeah,
him.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't think he planned that. I think that was just complete lunacy on Joe's behalf at the moment in time. And hey, timing, man. Like, again, the way that happened with your interview becoming a catalyst for people to defend what he was saying as being wrong, right? And saying, look, this is his character.
Right.
Let's say we didn't do what we did. How would that have transpired after for what he did?
Right.
That's kind of crazy when you think about it, right? Like, what would people have had to use to say, look, this is proof that this is the type of person he is?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of weird in the sense of how everything is like 6 degrees of separation. Like everything happened in different levels, but it all came together in that one moment.
Yeah, it's true, man. Do you know your family's lineage?
Yeah, to some extent. To some extent, I mean, I've lost a lot of my elders, but while they were here on this earth, God bless them all, I would ask questions all the time. I know I have some Seminole, Indian, Blackfoot, Cherokee. My mother used to speak about some Irish being in our blood from some point, and of course, African American. But I've never done like a deep DNA. I just spoke to my grandmother, and I have some Indonesian on my mother's side as well. So very, very culturally diverse person in the sense of like my lineage. But again, a lot of Native American, Indian from different facets, and
So
that's something.
do you have like any
Yeah,
Caribbean?
no, not at all, none.
Wow. So would you be
Yeah.
considered FBA then by definition in any way? Because I think you have to have like what, one parent?
Oh yeah, no, I'm out here for sure. I got generations that have been here. Like
Mm-hmm.
we my family, like I told you, like in the first interview, my father's side is basically based out of Baltimore, Maryland, and I have a lot of family that has been there. My great grandfather passed away at 106 years old. You
Wow.
know, I got family that's been in the Midwest as well, where a lot of the tribes derive from, and it's still there. You know, from that side of the family. Then my mother's side is from Philadelphia, but again, it all we've been here forever. Like I could go back, like I said, to the early 1900s, maybe even the late 1800s of what I can prove outside of where I probably, don't have historical, you know, educational knowledge on, but I know for sure we've been here for a long time. Man.
Hmm. So, when I interviewed MC Shan, he said he doesn't subscribe to like Pan Africanism or FBA because while it's important to know your lineage, he sometimes feels like people get too fixated on the past instead of looking forward to the future. What do you think about
I
that?
agree. I agree with that. It's funny. My mother, God rest her soul, she didn't like when people call her African American because she said, I'm not African in the sense of I'm not first or second generation or third generation coming over from Africa. We've been here. I'm American. And that was something that stuck with me because at first it was kind of a culture shock. Like, what do you mean? Because you hear it politically African American, but you don't think about what that really, like, means. What does that mean, African American? It is Africans that have just came over here, first, second generation. Those are African Americans. In a sense, yes, we came from Africa at some point, but it was so far and so long ago. This is where we are raised, and this is the culture that we know. We
Right,
don't
because
know
the
African
culture
culture.
was stolen from you guys too, though.
So we had to create whatever culture while we were here. My generational foundational people came here and had to reassess who we are and deal with whatever we had to deal with. So a lot of religions that came from Africa, so on and so forth, that had to be cultivated in a different way now that they were here in America. And if you've been here for so long, you lose the sense of what Africa is about versus the people that just came from Africa. So I understand where he's coming from with yo, bro, you know, I am a FBA. But I like the term better than saying I am a person that derived from the slave trade,
Right.
and give that any love because then, we in a time period where everything's about how you say it, so that's the way that FBI, I believe, came into effect to give us a little bit more of a cultural validity and make us understand, like, yo, we are different than the Africans that just came here. Our brothers that came from Africa that have just been here for 30, 40 years, they still got cultural history from that country. We've been here for 100, 200, 300 years. It's different.
Right. And also it's like a lot of people say that black is a American thing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because like, a lot of times Africans they feel a certain way towards black people too. Like there's discrimination there too.
for sure. For sure. I've seen that. Yeah. You know, again, because we come from different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
The American culture is different than the African culture. And, we come from different everything. The way that the food was cultivated there, the way that we grew up here. Like, I was just talking to a brother, one of my brother I love, my god brother, and like, yo, I never ate chitlins growing up. My grandmother used to make chitlins, and I hated the way it smelled. It stunk the whole house up. And that wasn't something that I was into. My sister, my sister would eat some chitlins. She'd take some hot sauce and kill those chitlins, but that wasn't something I was into. Now that's a Southern black thing. That's not something that Africans are, big on. That
Right.
was something that came from being a slave. They threw you the scraps. They left you whatever was left they didn't want, and we had to make best out of what was there. Pig feet, hog mugs, all these things are from the slave, movement of what was left for the slaves to eat, and they made this amazing meal. But now here I am. I'm not eating no chitlins. I'm not eating no hog mugs, bro. I'm not eating no pig feet. I'm sorry to my southern brothers. I salute you, but I ain't doing it.
Right.
That's not my thing, you know.
Yo, but it's crazy how creative black people, that forced black people to be, right? And that
Yeah,
creativity went on for generations to, like, you just got to figure out how to move, how to make things happen, right? With what you have, make do with what you have.
yeah, yeah. And they made the best out of it. And hey,
And I
who
mean,
can make
but culturally
fried
though,
chicken is
right?
one of the biggest things in the world, right? Like
Right. That's what I'm
Koreans right
saying.
now.
Culturally, the South, all those foods came from black people pretty much then, if you want to say, right? And it's popularized to even white people love it. Everybody loves it, so
Yeah, because they was cooking it and feeding it to the slave owners. They were making their meals.
right.
The best cornbread, the best. Come on, man. So yeah, we you put people in some of the worst situations, and they come out doing some of the, you know, best things that the earth has ever seen. That's like taking a piece of coal and cultivating it into a diamond, man. That pressure, put that pressure on it, it's gonna come out, it's gonna be something. Here we are.
What do you think about, the saying that everybody want to be black until it's time to be black?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, huh. Yeah, man. I've had my moments, man, where like I've lived in Virginia for a while, but it doesn't matter where you at. Prejudice can be anywhere. And when you go through those moments, I mean, I remember being a young black brother when I was 17, 18, 19, whatever, and getting pulled over by the cops and just being scared, man. And why? Why am I scared? I'm not doing nothing wrong. I'm not riding dirty, but it's just because I know that it could just go wrong for no
Mm-hmm.
reason. So yeah, those are the times where it's like, yeah, okay, you want to embrace what we are if you're not that, right? But you don't really know what it is to go through some of the emotional things we had to go through to just survive. Like I walk down the street, I don't look over my shoulder because I passed that age. Once you get past 26, it's kind of like they don't bother you. But when you're a young black man, it's rough, man. It's rough, and it's rules to this, man. I got two sons, man. I got two daughters. I got to teach them how to stand up and be righteous, but at the same time know how to speak, know how to your body language, how to conduct yourself in a situation, and know when you see something, you got to keep it moving. You can't, you got to be fast on your toes, man. And that's part of that. Like it's cool and hip when you see the swag and you want to be part of this culture, but it's a lot that comes with it. It's a lot of responsibility that comes with it, and you gotta always be on your A game. Even if you work in a 9 to 5, like you have to sometimes show a different level of integrity to make people feel comfortable.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, let me
I
let me
mean,
ask you this, right? Because it's like I feel like black people are the most influential people in the world because of the culture, right? Everybody thinks black people are so smooth, the way that, you dress, the way that you can talk, the confidence, everything, right? But why are black people so hated then if they're so admired and copied in that way? Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's such a strange thing when you think about it.
when you think about racism, right, especially in America, like let's just speak about that to combat or defend what you're saying. When you speak about racism here in America, it's been systematically set up in a way where we have become inferior. It's just as of late, and we still have inferior moments, but it's just as of late that you see a lot of successful black people. But there were guidelines set up, right, to keep you from being successful. So those guidelines that were set up by the federal government, by slave owners by different people. You know, you got the Willie Lynch syndrome, you got redlining, you have, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with the things that I'm speaking of, but there were a lot of things in housing and the way that school systems went. Of course, we all know, and the way that we were pitted against each other that made us who we are, but at the same time, put fear in a lot of other cultures because of how we were perpetuated over hundreds and hundreds of years of time.
Mm.
So it takes a lot of time. Now, if it took 400 years to build that systematically, how long is it going to take for you to break that down? There's some people that don't even, they're not even aware like of what has been set up strategically in the sense of they just change with time. So give you a synopsis when I say Willie Lynch, right? It was to pit people against each other, the black culture. And then make sure they had women and children watching. The big one fight the tall one, the light skinned one fight the dark skinned one, so that there could be that division and never be that unity. And that was systematically done for control, right? Now you have gangs where it started with the Bloods versus the Crips, this versus that. And it's just changed over time, but it's the same system. They just took it to another level for what the times are, and people don't pay attention. So if you pay attention to history and you learn from that, then you could figure a way to get out of it. Our culture has been put down in so many ways that people love it but are scared of it because it is very superior, like you said, in a lot of ways across the board. I mean, Africa's the most, richest land. It has all the natural resources to feed the whole world. Now, why do you think they took people from there? These people weren't slaves when they were there. Some were kings. They were living regular lives and was taken out of that situation and put into this new world with this new culture that was cultivating them to become who we became for a long period of time. So now, here we are. People have elevated because of opportunities, but it's still some people, bro, that are stuck in that old structure and they don't know how to get out because that's all they were ever taught. That's all they ever saw. So you can look down on them, but they just don't know any better. They don't have the knowledge, the wisdom, or the understanding of where they are, why they're there, and how to get out of it. And that's the problem. That's why the culture is one of the most superior and strongest cultures, but we still got a lot of problems. We're probably the most ununified culture in the world as well. You go to all these different cultures and you see these events and these situations that bring people together. We come together, we end up shooting, killing, and fighting people at times. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of ignorant people that don't have that knowledge and wisdom of why they're there. You're there to celebrate. You're not there to find your enemy that you think is your enemy. That's not really your enemy. It was created that way for you to feel that and take a moment to gun them down. That's, I hate to say it, man, but it's going to take a village, man. And the villages aren't there the way they used to be. They've been divided and conquered, and it's like every man for himself. And I think that the economical culture now has made that another problem, where it's like everyone's just trying to get that so-called bag. But all right, but okay, you get that bag. What are you doing for your people?
And
We
I think that you're right, because you hear a lot of times black people always say that, like, you see all these other communities stay together on code, right? They unify and they on these different causes and stuff like that. But they always talk about how black people are so divided that it's like that black self-hatred runs deep. That's why they're always fighting each other.
and it's unconsciously. It's just been embedded for so long, that's why some people still live by that because they don't know, like, yo, I'm doing this because I was taught to be this way. It's not because that's who I should be. This is how I was taught to be. I gotta go fight this brother to get mine. So, no, why can't we come together and get it together? You look at the situation where they had Black Wall Street. They were bombed. That was burnt down because these people had everything on their own banks, their own shops, their own, community. And now a lot of those people are buried under a highway. Like, that was all systematically done to hide what was going on. Like then you can't even. You got to go back to what elders? Where are these elders at? They're dead. It's only a few people that are left from that time period that can explain to you what was going on. And if we knew that knowledge and we understood how they got there and what they did, there would be a lot more people that are successful. But they hide that because they don't want you to do that. They don't want you to be that successful. They don't want that. That's why the powers that be stopped it. And again, man, there's people out there though that are knowledgeable and they're full of culture and they're bringing people together. But it's just like it's not a majority; it's a minority of people doing it. And we need more people to come together and keep the dollar in the community, and support your black businesses, support how to make things together as one again. It takes knowledge, and it takes for people to go out and each one teach one. You can't just sit around and wait for it to happen. You got to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you something because I saw earlier when you were talking about, you would get nervous just being out when you were a young black male, even though you weren't doing anything wrong. And you were saying that you got 2 sons and you got daughters, right? And I saw you get a little emotional when talking about that because obviously as a parent, you want to protect them always, but that protection isn't there when they have to go out into the real world and you're not there. You know what I mean? So you got to teach them to move, a certain way. What was it like for you to have that conversation with them?
It's difficult because they're living in a time where the culture is not like how it was when I grew up. When we grew up, we had respect, especially respect for the elders. We made sure that we were always looking over our shoulders whenever we were doing something wrong because we didn't want to disappoint anybody that was, an elder. These kids now, they just disrespect in front of anybody. I talk to some of the teachers sometimes and they're like, yeah, I get cursed at every day. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I try to teach them, again, to have that respect and that integrity. And my younger son, he might be going through a little bit more than my older son just because of the time period right now. He's 16. So he's at the pinnacle of, that testosterone and that puberty, like everything. And then being around a lot of these other social kids, like it's just a lot of freedom that we didn't have, man. And it's scary. Like I worry because it's sometimes not what you're doing. It could be what somebody else is doing and you're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Facts.
And you get caught in a situation. And if you're not thinking quick on your toes, I don't want to lose my kids, man, and have them, incarcerated or God forbid, the worst case scenarios. I don't want to even say that out in the air, but
right.
It's hard to get them to understand sometimes what can and can, like the things that can happen because they don't know until they go through it. And you don't want them to go through something and then learn from a mistake. You know what I'm saying? I want you to learn from the things that I went through and what I've seen, some of the mistakes I made, and some of the times that I actually survived whatever situations. Because, yo, bro, like it's been times that I pulled over 2-3 times in one day. Cop thinks this, thinks that. I remember one time a cop walked me out of the train station because he thought I was hopping the train. It was just summertime. It was like 100 degrees. And I'm trying to wait on the steps for the train. He sees me from on the platform and thinks, oh, this dude think he gonna hop my train and walk me like 6 avenues on some, you ain't going in there. You're gonna keep walking, keep walking. That's crazy. And this is in the 90s. So you think about it like, I didn't do nothing wrong. I didn't hop the train. I was
That's
just sitting on the
insane.
steps. But I'm just saying, there's situations like that where I had to conduct myself, be calm, look at his badge, take his name down in my mind, listen to what he's saying, do what he wants me to do to get to where I need to go so that I don't get myself locked up for nothing. Because I could have got myself locked up for nothing if I was a hothead.
Or
But
worse.
again, or worse. So it's situations like that that I try to like, keep them in mind with like, listen, conduct yourself at all times with thinking. Think. Don't act off your emotions. Your emotions could get the best of you. Don't act off of that. Think about it. Calm down. Think about what could happen. And it's a learning process for them and for me because I got to keep calm when I'm telling them these things. Because sometimes I want to get emotional just to show, the intensity of what I'm feeling to give you this knowledge. But I got to keep calm and hope that I keep them, right here with me. Hey, man, but sometimes, man, and it's crazy because I could be in my car and I could see some young kids, and this happened to me recently, and I'm like, look, I can tell they about to get into something. I can see it, and I get 2 blocks away and I hear shots fired, bang, 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 bang. It's like you could just see because when you've been in and been around that, you know what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta be attentive to your surroundings at all times, you know, and that comes with the culture as well.
Right. To build on to what you were saying earlier, though, about you saying that, don't act off emotion and just think, everybody has an ego. So it's kind of tough sometimes where it's like, if you keep dealing with something, it's like, at this point, do I stand up for what is right? Or do I just try to live and keep seeing another day? Or do I fight the cause because it's unjust? Or like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's always like you gotta try to decide what is the best situation there. So, man, I don't know, like that's just crazy. You know what I'm saying?
It's hard, man. It's hard because there are times that I feel like, yo, I'm about to pop off. That's it. Who you talking to? What? And it'd be our own people that will do it to us. It's crazy. I've been in a situation where I'm like, wow, it's 80, 90% of another culture around, white people around, right? But here you are popping off at me. And I didn't see you do this to none of these people. So it's almost like you testing me. So now I got to control myself and then think about people I'm around and act accordingly and handle it in a different sense. But this time I'm ready to just smack the shit out of somebody. Like, what? Are you serious right now? What you just said? Really? But again, I've been there and done that as a youth, a young guy, where I made some bad decisions, but I've been, lucky enough that I sustained my freedom and I didn't come in harm's way of like get myself hurt. So those are things that were learning stepping stones for me to become the man I am today and conduct myself in a calmer, more respectful, manner than I probably would when I was hot headed and young. And even then, when I was hot headed and young, I always thought, man, I always watched, I always paid attention. I was always like maneuvering. I never wanted to get caught up in the situation. I always had to think ahead of myself. And I was blessed for having that capability of doing that. So that comes from, like I said, I was raised by a village, man. It wasn't just my mother, my father. I had my whole family, that I was around at different times that taught me how to maneuver. Aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins. So I learned. And if they made a mistake, my younger cousin, I was like, nah, I ain't doing that. I ain't gonna end up in that situation. I got family that been locked up for like 30 years.
Mm.
Like, and I always looked at that as something that I had as a lesson to be learned without having to go through the hard times to learn it. I saw it from a distance, like, yo, I miss you, bro. I ain't seen you in years, because of the choices that you made. I don't want that to be the case for my family,
Right.
so here we are.
Whew, he took this interview somewhere else, man. Went deep on him. Pause,
Yeah, I mean,
but
yeah,
damn.
apologies. It's
No,
just,
no, no. I like that, man. I really think that, we talk about this hip hop stuff and everything, and that's cool. But like at the end of the day, there are a lot of things going on in this world that is really important. You know what I'm saying? So like I like having these deep conversations for those that are willing to really, soak up the jewels, right? Because we all know, like in this era, everybody is going to click on the clickbait stuff and all the dramatized things and everything. But man, like if you're gonna watch some of that stuff, at least watch some of this meaningful shit too, bro. That's how I feel, man. Like that's my favorite stuff to talk about. Um,
yeah, I mean, hip hop saved my life, but it was times in hip hop that I almost lost my life.
right, right, yeah.
Being around some real, it's some real dudes that are in the hip hop game. And if you surround yourself by them and you get in situations, you gotta, pick and choose your battles wisely. So, but being in the studio kept me out of the streets. I was in the studio, I was in the box doing my thing, making sure that everybody's sounded right. And, thank God for that, man. Having that love for the culture and just being able to be, you know, part of it saved me in a lot of ways. They say if you make it past 26, you're a survivor. So I did some things and I made it.
So when Cuban and I did our interview, he said that he didn't feel the speeches that Joe made were racist, but he understood from your perspective as someone black from the outside taking it that way. He said that Joe and Macho would tell racist stories and that Joe was bullied by blacks when he was younger and he held on to that resentment.
Yeah, I heard him say that. And I think for some of the comments that he was saying that he didn't think was racist at the time, he didn't know the actual comment that he said. Like you said, he didn't say the Morenos, he said
Right.
the Moyos. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of changed the dynamic once
And
that
then he
was
did say that
clarified.
later too. He said that when I realized that it was Moyo, that was definitely, but at first when I said it to him, I said Moreno because I thought that's what you said. So that was my fault. But yeah, he changed that around. But he was talking about he doesn't remember that specific moment that he said that, but he was saying like all the other like speeches that he was saying, oh, it's the Latino time, Latino time. He didn't take those as racist, but he did say that there were times that Joe and Macho would say racist stories. And he believed
Which
that it came from Joe being bullied by black people, when he was younger.
I mean, if that's the case, like there's racism in every culture, right? Everybody
Mm-hmm.
has their racist moments, right? For whatever, like on a scale of 1 to 10, however it happens. Say you do, you act, whatever. Now, what he said is what he said. For whatever reason he said it, that's beyond me. Um, I really just reflected on it because I knew that he was in the comfort zone at the time and said it feeling comfortable in his surroundings. And that stuck out to me because, like I said, I think if he would have had a couple of brothers in his face, he wouldn't have said that. So what's that saying? That it's something that shouldn't be said. If you're in a comfort zone, you can say things that you probably wouldn't say in front of other people. So that right there in itself, if you were bullied, I'm sorry to hear that. You know, but again, not every brother's the same. Those brothers that did that to you, again, I can't speak for them, and I can't speak for you being the person that you are saying what you had to say. But I wouldn't have said that. Like, let's say I was in a room full of or the brothers, and I'm defaming a certain culture to say that, hey, we need to now get to the top. And those people, if I said that and I said it against certain cultures, I would be canceled immediately, especially if it's the powerful culture, you know? Like if I said something that was anti Semitic
Right.
in a room full of brothers and somebody there happened to be
Recording
Jewish
or
against
something.
without me
Mm.
knowing, I could have hurt their feelings. And now they go back and let people know what I said. So it depends on the level of who you're speaking about and what you're saying. But again, we shouldn't be saying these things. That's just it. I mean, times have transpired to where we are now, and this is the cancel culture, man. We've seen a lot of people get canceled for less.
Right.
So, I mean, I
What
didn't
do you think
say,
about what Cuban said though? Like where he said, um, everybody does it when they're around their own culture. They make like jokes or they say like certain talk about other people.
I think that could be true, but it depends on what you're saying and how you're saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could say something and be from another culture in front of me, and I laugh with you. Like, yeah, that's because it's true. You know, it's not like you talking something that I don't know or have seen as being the truth. And it's actually funny because, yes, I've witnessed that in my own culture that you're bringing up. But it's when you're derogatory about it and you're trying to put yourself on a bigger plateau, a bigger level by saying it. I think that's what changes the game, you know, because that would be hurtful to anybody if somebody was putting you down and putting your culture down right in your face. And it's not for realistic purposes, it's just to be superior. And nobody's going to take that lightly. You know, we're here to defend ourselves. And at the same time, sometimes you got to defend your culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's where the unification comes to play.
What do you think about the notion? Because Joe has been on record so many times over the years saying that he identifies as black and Latinos are black.
Um, damn, that's a difficult one to divulge into just because we can be seen as the same in a lot of senses of our struggles, right? And where we derive from culturally, we all come from kind of the same background, whether it's that Taino Indian mixed with the African. You can go to all these Spanish countries and see people that look 100% black. They speak Spanish. I've seen that many a times. But at the same time, there is cultural differences with the food you eat, with the way you sometimes dress, with the way you talk. So there are cultural, you know, things that are similar and things that are different. To say that we are all the same or to say to themselves, yes, I am black, I don't know if I can truly believe that. Because again, there's things that make you diverse and different than a black man if you're Hispanic. And but listen, I want to clear the air with one thing. My kids are all half Puerto Rican and half black. So I live with both cultures. As I watch, I study, I embrace both cultures. But there are differences. There are things that culturally are different on the Latino side than it is on the black side. And there are things that are exactly the same because of where we come from. So it's not like it's division, but it's just cultural differences of ways that we were brought up, you know? And those things need to be addressed to show that there is a diversity. These are things that we do. These are things that you do. These are things that I've never done. These are things that you've never done just because of the way our cultures are different. So, how can you say you're black when you really haven't lived through all the cultural things that a black person had to live with? How can I say I'm Latino if I haven't lived like a Latin person has lived? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, that's where it gets a little controversial. Like, okay, you could signify with one side and say, yo, I understand, and this is the culture I grew up around that. But have you lived that culture? Have you been like on a day to day? No. Like I've been around Hispanic people for a vast majority of my life, and I embrace the culture, love it. My lady is Puerto Rican. I I eat food that's Latin that I love. Can I cook it? Not all of it, no. And there's certain things I can embrace and deal with and do that she can't. And it's not like we're trying to be different, it's just the way we were raised. So when we come together, it's an explosion. Like this is cultural explosion. It's amazing. But we're not the same in our upbringing. We're not the same in the cultures. We're different. So for someone that let her wake up one day and be like, yeah, I'm black. I ain't gonna argue with her. But at the same time, she's gonna be like, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. Well, that's not something that I was raised on.
Mm.
And the same for me, you know. So
So
that's
that's
why I
why
stand with
it's
it.
important that you keep the almost the same instead of saying are the same.
Yeah, we have a lot of similarities, but we
Joe
have a
has
lot of
corrected
differences too.
people, right? Because Joe has corrected people and said blacks and Latinos are the same, not almost the same. Like he's done that. But the truth is, it's really not, though.
It's not.
And it's not even just a black and Latino thing, because, like, with everything, it's you can never say it's like saying like family. Like family isn't family. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
at the end of the
yeah.
day, like let's just be honest, right? Like that's the truth.
Like are Dominicans and Puerto Ricans almost the same, or are they the same?
No, they're not the same.
They might not even signify themselves as being close to being the same. It's so diverse the way that they were brought up, the things that they eat, the way they talk, everything, but they're still Latinos and Latinas, right?
Right.
So that's a very, very difficult way of looking at it. I mean, the way that he addressed that's hard to prove that we are
Well,
the
because like the weird thing though, right, is like if you truly believe that, right, that Latinos are black, right, why you keep pushing the 50-50 narrative then? Because
yeah,
that's a redundant statement,
yeah.
right? Because then you would just say hip hop was created by black people. Black people includes Latinos in that. So it's a done deal, right? So well, why you keep saying that it's separated in that way that it's by both?
There's a contradiction right there that's proving the point. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about Melly Mel coming out and saying hip hop is Bronx culture and not black culture?
I was, I listened to that, right? I was watching what he was saying, and I understand the origins, but that, again, that's because people know that that's where hip hop was created, right? Well, they're saying that brothers were in Queens and in Brooklyn that were part of the culture at the same time. The origin just started with this, birthday party that Kool Herc, threw for his sister. So let's say it like this. You throw the first event that becomes something that people remember as being the beginning of a culture. How do we know that's the beginning of the culture, though? Like, how do we know that? Because there was people that were rapping before Kool Herc did that, right?
Right.
That were already making music, but they just weren't calling it hip hop. They weren't breaking up break beats and so on and so forth.
And Kool Herc said that he went to other parties that were just like that, before. Yeah.
I've heard that as well,
Mhm.
and I've heard it in different boroughs. Let's say that hip hop began in New York, right? I like to say that first. New York was the forefather to where hip hop was created, the five boroughs. Then we could go as far as saying the first documented event or events were in the Bronx that we know of. Now, Melly Mel went on to say it's a Bronx thing and then defended the fact that he was saying you people would never step to Fat Joe and say how you feel because you be shaking in your boots. I mean, that's a general concept right there. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to walk up to him and just start this rhetoric, right? That's just one thing. But if it ever came to a point where there was a conversation that could be had on a platform where he would have to be neutral, I think there's some people that would definitely check him for things he said and not be afraid of whatever power he has within the streets.
But my thing also is
Especially,
like, why does me disagreeing with you always have to lead to violence or something like that, or like be something else, right? Like we can't just debate of the minds or something. You know what I mean? Or like you have your opinion, I have my opinion, or whatever it is.
I
Like
mean,
you know,
I feel like he was coming from a street culture standpoint when he made that comment, Melly Mel. And then on top of that, I guess he's looking at Joe as coming from the streets and saying that you guys aren't going to approach. So it's not even like saying that we can be here and be diplomatic about this. This is somebody you should fear, is what he's saying, and you probably do fear. Now, being back to the Bronx, hey, I give it up to the Bronx. That's where I knew hip hop to begin, and the only reason I know that is because of what I was taught, from the culture. Now, if somebody could bring out more history of the things that were going on at that time, again, I would go with just saying it began in New York, but I know the foundational parties and the events that started DJ scratching, breakbeats, and MCs MCing was happening for the most part in the BX. So I'll give him some credit on that, but I can't give all the credit to that because at the time when all that was happening, I wasn't even born yet. You know, I came after that and witnessed what I witnessed in the early '80s. So that's the story that's told. So I figure if they telling the story, that's the truth. I don't know. There's probably some brothers that could say, well, look, I was in Bed-Stuy and my brother was doing it in '73, doing the same thing.
well, you know, that's what's so funny, right? Because when I interviewed Illa G, right, Illa G said that hip hop started in Brooklyn. He said there's a video on YouTube. He didn't send it to me though, but he said that he saw something like that, and he said hip hop really started in Brooklyn. I don't know if it's true or not, but obviously, people feel a different type of way about.
Man, history's being rewritten every day, man. There's
Right.
people that are going back and finding new things that it's like, okay, it's disproving what this person proved to be, history. And that could possibly happen. I think people are taking what Melly Mill said and running with it because he was down at that time. He was there. He was alive. He was, he's a forefront, legend that was there when it was just beginning. So,
But you know what's so crazy though is that Tariq Nasheed said that on the documentary he made, Microphone Check, Mel was on there and he said it was black culture at the time of the documentary.
mm,
So then
so,
what
so
happened from the documentary to recently that made
he
him.
did say that, hey, Joe always calls me. Joe always brings me into the picture. So maybe that's just him giving back love at this point in time to somebody that supports him. You know what I mean? Because he's a legend that Joe is part of the crew and brings him around and indulges in, events and conversations and community things. So I think that was politics, man. That's what that sounds like to me.
I totally agree with you on that, man. Look, I love Melly Mel, okay? Like, he's a legend. There's no taking away what he has been able to contribute to hip hop, right? But it definitely seemed like it was a chess move on Joe's part. Now, if I have this forefather come out and say this, then I don't have to
Um,
apologize and maybe I look
yeah,
okay. You know what I mean?
I'm
Like,
good. I'm solidified again. I'm
right,
back. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I mean, that's a political move.
You know, Yeah, man, I totally agree with you. I just wonder if Joe called them and was like, a shaka Khan, shaka shaka shaka. I want to rock your own.
Yeah, man. Yeah, shout out to Melly Mel, man.
Yeah.
No disrespect ever intended. Shout out to him. It's just like, yeah, that comment was, yeah, it was crazy.
He kind of stuttered a lot though in that video. It kind of didn't seem like as smooth, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know, man, but it's something about that video just kind of seemed a little off to me. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, I watched it twice because I was
Yeah.
just like kind of studying how he was saying it as well and what he was saying and trying to figure out where it was coming from because it felt like it came out of nowhere. Yeah, the FBA comment was made, but why you have to speak
But
upon
he
it.
shot like a whole like piece, like, you know, like different angles and like all professional and text on there and everything. It wasn't just like, hey, I'm in front of my phone and I'm like, yo, what's going on with this and yada yada.
See,
You know what I'm saying?
you studying it from a different perspective because you know how this works and how this
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
down.
that's what I'm
Not
saying though.
everybody
It
gonna
was
see it
like
the way you
almost
did.
like, yo, they set up different cameras and everything, and we go like, it was almost like this was taken from a documentary, you know, like the way that he did
Mm,
it. I was like, what is going on here? Like, but yeah, man.
yeah.
Did you see what Cuban wrote in the comments?
No, I didn't. No, I
Of
didn't.
course,
You remember?
our man Cuban had to go in the comments and was all like, you know, showing respect to Mel and everything, but he was all like, you know, he went at Joe a little bit, and he was like, well, at least you showing where your loyalty lies, you know,
Mm,
and
mm.
it's crazy because like Mel was responding to everybody but Cuban.
Oh,
So that was kind of very telling too.
yeah, because Q was a force to be reckoned with. He speaks a lot of truths, man, and it comes from a very deep place in his heart. You
Yeah.
know, I never really seen him ever, to be honest with you, fabricate anything. Like he's just off the cuff, real, man. And
Yeah.
that's why I always love to respect him. When you know it and you see it, it's just like,
I
damn.
think when he talks, you feel the conviction. It's kind of like, you know how like when they said like Tupac rapped, like he really believed, like you could feel that he really believed what he was saying so much that it made you believe it. You know what I'm saying? Like Q has that way of like when he tells the story, when he talks and stuff, it's like, bro, like, you know, like, damn, it's like, it's
Yeah.
hard to like feel like he lying right now. Like, you know, I don't know.
I've never seen him cap.
Yeah.
Now the other guy, I've seen him cap many a times, and I'm
Right.
like, whoa, how are people allowing this? Who is not paying attention? Do you hear 70 people you robbed? Are you serious?
Yo,
Are you serious?
what about being 10 years old with the machete? You know, ha
Come on, bro.
ha. And then at his even more funny at his brother's funeral. Well, that part's not funny that he died. Okay, rest in peace. I'm not saying that,
No,
but
God rest
he
his soul.
said that the lady
She
came
showed
out
up,
and was like, "Little Joey saved me 30 years ago." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
bro,
that's crazy. Like,
bro.
at
And
the
then you know what I
funeral, she
noticed?
coming out and saying that.
Okay, so we got that one. We got the 70 people that actually he had no gun, did this in a gymnasium at high school, and some of the people he robbed helped him take the stuff he stole from them and other people out because it was too much stuff for him to carry. That's all this doesn't make any sense, right? Then then
Wait,
wait,
before you say that, it was funny because I saw somebody reacting to that, and they were like, "So where were the gym teachers at? Where was anybody else
anybody.
at? Like they just gonna let you do that? Like, come on, man!" And then, did you see him recently at the Nick game
Yes.
where he had the whole purple outfit on?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
most
yeah.
funny comment somebody wrote was like that hat was from one of the 70 kids he robbed at the gym.
Well, listen, he leaves the door open for all of these different comments, man. And I
But he
know,
running with it now, right? Because he's like, yo, you want to hear a Cap story? He says that now before he tells the story. I'll give you the biggest Cap story.
stop
So
it.
it's like he knows, he builds off of it, bro. Like it's crazy.
The whole Biggie song went from we did 3 songs to we did 4 songs to we did, in every interview, the number just grows on how many
Right.
songs they've done together. Where
But
these songs at? Biggie came out with all these albums after he passed away of lost files and lost this and lost that. Where these songs at? Who got these songs?
I
Why they
know.
holding on to them? Why they not releasing these songs?
But it's even
Yeah.
funny though, like because every single he takes like little truths. I do believe that there's like a little bit of truth in every story that he tells, but then like he tells it to the point that you can't even recognize it anymore, right? Because like
So
even Charlemagne was all like, when you say the guy was 7 feet tall, I think that's why people think you lying. You know, like that part just like is too much. But every time he tells a story, you pay attention to the numbers keep growing. Like I heard him tell
yeah,
a story about when he saw Biggie one time by a truck and there was 100 people there. Next time I heard him tell it, it was 500 people. Next time, 1,000 people. You know what I mean? Like it's just the numbers keep getting bigger and bigger.
yo, these guys that cap, man, they take a little bit of truth and they run with a whole bunch of lies because they know there's no one at the time that can check them. So
Right.
when they say these things, I'm like, especially if it's some, I've seen people cap that I know, and I'm like, that ain't happening that way.
Right.
But I see how they do it, where they'll create something that isn't really like a big enough lie for you to worry about or care about. What he's doing, he's saying things that are just outlandish. They're just so far out there that even the stupidest person would have to be like, what? Huh? So anyone that has any senses is like, come on, bro. I know that's a lie.
But
So
you know, the
now,
thing is though, is like you can't dispute that the man is crazy entertaining. He's so
very,
funny, right? That's why
very.
like I enjoy watching him do it, because it's just like I'm just laughing my ass off so much. I'm like, damn, bro, like I wish you didn't do all the other shitty stuff that I don't like you for, because you
Some of
really
the best
entertaining.
entertainers, they're like cartoon characters, man. It's so animated and it's so like,
Right. He's so
yeah,
charismatic
that
with it,
you,
right? And I think that he realized in 2020, when the world was on pause and everything, right, that he could get so many headlines by telling all these stories. That's why he started doing like all the live streams and doing all that stuff. It's crazy, man.
yeah, but hey, to each his own. But
Right.
the world is watching and they see. A lot of people are calling him Cap City now. Like, I'm just being honest.
It
Like,
was easier to lie in the past when you didn't have all these cameras, when you didn't have all these interviews to keep referencing, right? When you didn't have
yeah,
people
yeah.
like Panda Chop to piece it all together and really show.
Because you can lie in 50 states and nobody would know because it's just in that state. Now
Right.
you lie in one place that the whole world is watching. They're like, the hell are
Exactly.
you talking about?
I heard you tell that last week.
Yeah,
It was only
look.
2 people. Now it's
And now I got
2,000.
time to sit back and study what you're saying. And
Right.
like, this shit don't make no sense. Whatever.
So when I had interviewed Cuban before, right, he told an incident of a singer named Veronica. You know her, the Puerto Rican singer back in the day.
Yes,
Yeah, she
yes.
sang that song, "Someone to Hold," right? And I think Joe was on that one. I think Joe
I
was on that
know
one, or was it Pun and Cuban that was on that one?
Pun and Cuban
Yeah,
was
Pun
on
and
that
Cuban was
one.
on that one, and Joe was on Rise. That's right, right. And
Yeah.
um, Rise had came out, but then like Joe didn't want to clear the rights for them to shoot the Someone to Hold music video, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Cuban said that he believes it's because Veronica had a black boyfriend, right?
Oh, that might have been part of it. I
Yeah,
mean,
and she's
I
Puerto
can see
Rican.
that.
What?
And I can see I can see that being a part of it, and I can see the fact that it was something that would have catapulted them into another realm that he wasn't a part of,
Right.
and that could have been a problem.
So then like, he had told that story way back when, and we really didn't think too much of it. And then obviously all these recent events come out and you said what you said. And then now we got Raheem of the Furious Five, right? He was
Yeah,
on Doggy
good brother.
Diamond's podcast. Shout out to him. And he said that he knew a Puerto Rican video girl back in the day that was dating a brother. And she was in Joe's music video. And on the set, Joe said, you making our people look bad by dating these monkeys,
Hmm.
which is just wild. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy because some people are like, yo, Joe been around black people all his life. Like, why would he be racist? Why would he even say that? Or, why you coming out after 30 years and saying this now? Like, if you felt that way before, because Raheem was very like, for a fact, like, I know Joe is racist.
Now, I've had conversations with Raheem in the past, in the studio and outside the studio, where we just built like brothers. We didn't talk about music. We weren't making music. We were just building and exchanging conversation. And he's a very genuine person, man. And again, like I bumped into him after those conversations at SOBs at events, and he pulled me to the side and we chopped it up, even more. He's a very humble, and for him to be such a legendary person, he's a very humble and hospitable guy, man. That's easy to get along with, down to earth. So when I heard him saying what he was saying, I didn't think, that there was any lies in anything he was saying. I really took that for what it was worth from what he was saying because, I trust his integrity from the person I know him as being. And that shit was crazy. I was like, wow, he actually said that. Now the question is, there was the female being completely honest. Now, what reason would she have to lie about that? That's where the only question at hand came into my mind. Like, okay, she said this. And she said it probably because it's something that she felt was just like, wow, what the really? He said that to me. That's what I get from it, and I'll be honest, I believe it. It's not something that I think is far
What
fetched.
I want to also say though is at that time, right? The music video was probably before Pun came along, right? So Joe was at the forefront as far as Puerto Rican MCs, right? So she's Puerto Rican. Why would she lie on another Puerto Rican that is out there in the entertainment business that is and is essentially helping quote unquote our people?
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So unless it was true or something like that, I don't know what reason she would have to lie about that. But
To make them look bad, yeah, like it doesn't make sense. Yeah,
yeah, so like from the different things, like I believe that where there's smoke, there's fire. Now maybe not everything is true on all these different stories that we hear, but man, it's like just too many that
yeah,
something got to be true, right? I don't
yeah.
know.
I mean, and then again, like from what I witnessed, you know, that just, makes it all the more, realistic that he said that in my mind. Like, why wouldn't he? I mean, if I know he probably feels superior in his culture and feels like, when you feel like you're superior, and we know this from just man being man, you're gonna talk down and step on anyone that's in your circle that's gonna take away your superiority. So that's what I feel like he was a reflection of that in that conversation he had with her. Like, look, this is not, good for what we stand for.
Mm.
That's what that sounds like. And you need to refrain from doing that. Now, who the hell are you to tell this woman that? It's crazy to me in a sense. But then it goes back to your ego, your arrogance, and your superiority. If he really did say it, there's all those factors that play a part in that, man.
And the situation with Veronica, Cuban said that Terror Squad ended up jumping her boyfriend, the brother. So
Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Cuban wasn't a part of that. I don't think Pun was a part of that, but I'm talking about like the other guys, the street. I think the street crew or something like that. But man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was some heavy street dudes that were from TS, man. And, I mean, ooh, yeah, wolves, wolves. When I say
Right.
wolves, like wolves, man. And hey, when them guys came out, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. So I could see that happening too. You know.
So let me ask you this, because you were born in the 70s, right? But you were coming up in the 80s.
Yeah.
I know you were personally cool with Latinos and you're black, and the relationship between the two communities in New York is very different compared to other places. Did you ever witness personally in the streets like racism between the two? Because it's like now online people are talking, oh, we was never cool, there was always issues and stuff. So like I like hearing from people's perspectives, like what they personally saw and witnessed.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, you in the cafeteria in school, there was the Spanish section over there and the black brothers over here. What's that about? That's just how it was. You know, a lot of the Latina girls, they didn't, associate with the black brothers. That wasn't a big thing. That wasn't like a lot of intermingling and shit like that going on. It was a lot of separatism in a lot of ways. Yeah, so that's real, man. Yeah. Um, you know, we got I got brothers. All right, so those same people that sat at those other tables, they were my friends. They were our friends, but we just had a culture of separation for whatever reason. I don't know why. It just happened that way. We would still hang out, what's up, whatever, whatever. But when it was time to do certain things, it was separate moments.
Hmm.
So, you know, um, and then there were times where certain people in each culture thought that they were better than the other on both sides and would say things or do things to show that. So yeah, man, I mean, the segregation and the racism happened in the Latin and the black community, and it still happens, you know? It's just I'm older now, so I think now I don't see it the way that I guess some of these younger people might be going through it when I was younger, how I was as well. Because when you're younger, you kind of you start to gear yourself towards what you know best, you know, and you're not always as open minded and know the world as a world. You just know what you know. So yeah, it was a lot of that though, man. With different situations with black
But your
and
era was more like kind of like the first, second, like generation of like, you know, their parents basically immigrating to the country and then having them there, or bringing them there, and then they're going to school. So then, you know, you hear a lot of things that people saying, oh, you know, the older people were saying stay away from the Morenos, or you know, why are you trying to act black, or these different things, right? And but the kids, they befriended black people, and they realized that what was being told to them by, you know, their parents or older people was wrong.
yeah, but I think we were still at the cusp of that. So it was
Mm-hmm.
still like, okay, we're open minded much more than that generation before us, but we still got remnants of that
Right,
that are
right.
still lingering on both sides. So, you know, it took for us to grow to where we are now to see that differently. But yeah, at the time that I was coming up, there still was remnants of that, man. We still were like you know, figuring each other's culture out, figuring each other out, but we had love, but again, it wasn't like we were like this. We were just like, you know, we were getting there. We were getting there.
Right.
And
And that's the thing, man. Like, I hate what about this whole conversation, you know, with the whole Joe and FBA and all that stuff like that, that it's really created more kind of like those type of comments that you see, you know, online, you know, and it's just like, it's a, like, it's just really bad, bro. You know what I mean? Because the thing that
yeah,
I dislike the most is racism. Like, it's just like, I
it's
think
taking us
that,
back in time, man. We're not moving forward with this. We're moving backwards. We need to like, you know, the division is not good. You
right.
know,
Because I
we need
love
to.
everybody, bro. Like, no matter what, like, when I meet somebody, I don't think of recognize that as the first thing, like somebody's color. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No,
I always think about, is this person a good person? Like, you
that's
know,
it.
by feeling their vibe, their energy, and everything. You know, and I
Yeah,
appreciate every culture. Like, I always am like curious to learn more from other people. You know, that's the way that I'm very open in that way, and I appreciate people for that. You know, so it's really sad to me to see that kind of hatred happen. And you know what, like, I know as minorities, a lot of times, like, we tend to try to trust our own people first, but sometimes it's our own people that are willing to hurt us
oh,
before
yeah,
somebody from a different race, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's crazy. That's how it is, you know.
yeah. I'm just like you with that. I like to embrace everybody. Good, because they're good people. I embrace them.
Hmm.
And you know, when I see something that I don't like, I keep my third eye open. And then if I see that it is what I really thought it was, then I just stay away. But I tell everybody the same way. I don't care what culture you're. You my peoples. I'm gonna tell you if it's something that you know you did was wrong, and I'm gonna tell you that I love you and I love this about you and that as well. So that's just how we should be with each other as people. You
Right.
know, somebody said something to me that was prolific. If you see something that you can't fix within 10 seconds about a person, don't mention it. And I said, oh, that's a deep concept, right? Like, so if I see a flaw in you that I feel like is something that I can't fix, just leave it alone. But it's something like, hey, Panda, you got something in your teeth. I'm gonna let you know. And that is how we should mingle with everybody. You shouldn't talk down to people about something that you feel like is a flaw. If it's something that you know for sure is out of your hands, you either live with it or you let it go. And good people are gonna come around you, and you gotta embrace them. And if they do something wrong, you talk to them about it. Because everybody has their moments, right? We
Hmm.
all have our days. We all have our moments. So it's not about, man, Hispanic or black, black or white. It's about good and bad, man. You know, and the good people, we need to stick together, man,
Yeah,
and make this world a better place. That shit sounds so cliche, but it's true.
it's true, man. It's true. Yeah. Did you see Scott Storch's baby mama? what happened with her?
No, no.
So she was caught on tape calling like some valet drivers wetbacks and all this stuff like that. And she's Ukrainian, right? So she was yelling at them and like saying you guys are broke and I'm rich and everything. And she the video went everywhere, and then she's online and going, well, the guy grabbed my ass, that's why I did that and everything. But she never mentioned that during the actual like confrontation at first, you know. So then she's like telling on her stories like all these different things, saying, I'm sorry that I called them that. I love Mexican people, I love all people and everything. You know, most of my partners have been Mexican and all this stuff. And then later on, like she's receiving so much backlash that then she starts crying online about it and saying, you guys stop sending me DMs about this. You don't know how you're affecting my life right now and all this stuff. And then she goes back to the actual valet stand and tries to get one of the guys, you know, to admit that another guy grabbed her ass or something like that. She's like, you know, he's not here today, but come on, can't you just admit what he did to me and yada yada. Finally, she comes out and she's like, you know what? I tried to apologize to the two guys that did nothing to me. So she admitted basically that they did nothing, and it was just her being a brat or doing whatever. My whole point in saying that, though, is that like if the first thing you point out is somebody's race when you're angry and that's what you insult, that's a red flag. You got a problem right there. There's a million things you could have insulted them about or said before you mentioned that person's race.
Yes. So that's the first thing on your mind. When people say, hey, I got friends that are, then that's a racist comment in itself.
Right.
Because people are people. You don't make those comments to stick, you know, put some label on somebody and then now come back and say, but I got friends that no. You said that because that's how you felt.
Well, my best friends this or my brother's dating this girl. You know, like you know how it always is.
You know, I got friends from all different cultures that we know each other so well. We can sometimes say derogatory things to each other, but it's not looked at in a racial derogatory way because we know that we're doing it just for shits and giggles.
Right.
And it's something that is, you know, friendly little fun. But when you say something to somebody you don't know and you saying that and you say it right off the cuff, that's how you really feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's why they say, like, you know, you really want to know how somebody feels or who they are, make them mad. Because then you see how they respond. And that says everything. You know what I mean? It says everything. But, you know, what you just said, like, about how, like, you saying things derogatory to, like, your friend and stuff, you guys are in on the joke, right? You understand it and all that.
Yeah.
I feel that's why people need to be careful too. Like if they have a black friend and your black friend gives you the N-word pass and stuff like that. Now your friend may feel comfortable with you saying it around them, right? Because they know you, they know your background and everything. But if your friend's friend comes around, you can't just feel comfortable in saying in front of your friend's friend, that person don't know you, you know? No. And then it's the same thing with when you online now, right? Like you come online and all these people not from your hood, don't know you, and you may be white or whatever, but you've been saying it your whole life. They see you saying it, they're gonna have a problem with it. You know what I mean? Because they don't know you.
Yeah, you gotta know your crowd, man. You gotta know your crowd, and you gotta know how to dictate to your crowd. You can't do that to everybody, and not everything is for everybody to say in front of other people as well. Again,
right?
We do it for whatever comical purposes, but it's not something I would say with sincerity, in my heart. And they know that. That's the only reason why it's funny, you know, because that platform has been laid for years to be able to say these things. It's not something that just happened overnight either.
Exactly.
You gotta know people for a long time for them to understand the comfortability in saying certain things without, feeling like, oh my God, you just attacked me with that. No, it's not an attack. You know what this is. Just being funny. So yeah. And the temperature checks now, oh man, this whole society is different now. You can get checked in a second, so you got to really be on your toes and watch what you say, man.
Right.
Because some people are very sensitive. You don't know what everybody's been through. Some people have been through some things that they don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
You don't know. It could have been a very bad situation that those words came with, you know? So,
Yeah, and I brought this up because I wanted to talk about how New York has its own culture, right? And in New York, it's acceptable for Latinos to say the N-word.
yeah,
But in other places in America, that's a big no-no, especially when you're talking about the South. So you see a lot of people right now having this debate of they feel like black people from New York allowed Latinos to say the N-word, and that's not right, right? That's a lot of the FBA argument that's been going on. And again, the whole online thing, when you're not from that culture, you're not from New York culture, so you don't understand, or you don't know this person and they're saying it, like Fat Joe been saying the N-word all his life, right? But he's not black. But then, like, if you're from the South and then you turn on and you see him and you're like, well, you're so light in complexion and you saying the N-word, it's just kind of, it rubs me the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? Because of what they've probably had to deal with culturally in the South is different from New York, you
yeah,
know?
for sure, for sure. And I understand that. And again, yeah, New Yorkers, we different, man. We just different. We have, again, back to the earlier point, to now segue into this point. Yes, we have come together and been living together and raised together in close quarters. So we assimilate with each other in a different way. And those words don't really have the same symbolism they do in the South up here. It's kind of more like a Ebonics type of way of thinking. When people say those words here, we're down there, it's kind of like, yeah, well, we live this and we still dealing with this, and that's not something that we can nurture. We don't nurture
Right.
those words. Here, we not only do we nurture it, it became almost like a brotherly way, to
Well, I,
speak.
I saw
And
something that someone said, like, they were like, everybody in New York says the N word. They're like, even Indians and all these people
so
say it.
so that could be true, but this is the side of it that we need to get away from that,
Right.
because what happens is we start desensitizing ourselves with that, thinking it's normal and it's okay, but it's not. I had some prolific brothers that I used to be surrounded by. They were like deep in the culture, and they let me get away with it. But I was younger, and I used to record them, and let me shout them out. United Front, this is a very, very influential group, and they let me get away with it for a while, and then they started like just speaking to me like, yo, why you saying that? You know, this is not how we should, and I'm gonna teach you and tell you why you shouldn't be saying that. And got to a point where I couldn't say the word. It was like I refrained from saying that, and I started just using the word brothers.
Mm.
And it was something I needed at that time to refine myself and understand that I came from a time of ignorance, that word was being used, and we were ignorant on why we were using it. We thought it was cool and it was part of the culture, but it wasn't. It's something that was actually taking us back, and we need to move forward and be able to be. How you going to be pro-black when you're using something that's anti that, right? And you're using this rhetoric that's anti that was built to be negative, and you trying to spin it and say, hey, well, it's a cool word now. Like, no, no, no,
Or
no,
it
no.
removes the hate from the word, removes the power from the word.
No. And I'm like, no, no, bro. That's not, this is how we become powerful. This is how we become, knowledgeable of who we are. And then you need to now learn the new ways of thinking and change. These brothers even changed their names. You know what I'm saying? They took on names to signify their strength and their power in the community from their American names that they were given. And so it was deep. And I started to listen to that and understand what I was doing wasn't helping my community. I was just prolonging something that was built in the community to keep us down. And again, I'm thankful that I had those moments to learn that, because when you're surrounded by people that are doing it on a regular basis, you don't know any better. That's just, nature, human nature. You're doing the wrong things. You don't know it's wrong because everybody's doing it around you. And they don't even know what they're doing. So somebody steps in and they teach you, like, look, this is hurtful. And our people went through a lot of pain with those words. Don't take that lightly. And I started to look at it in a totally different, lens, man. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. You're right. It's time for refinement. So that's when I stopped using that word and started, building. And it makes you a better person in a lot of circles too. Because would you use that word when you're in a circle full of corporate people that are not from the same background as you, or a circle of other people, forget about even business, that are not from the same background as you? No, you wouldn't do that. So why is it cool to do that with your people?
Mm. And a lot of people use the excuse of like, oh, it's a term of endearment, but it's not always used as a term of endearment because when you call someone a bitch ass N word, that's not a term of endearment, right? Or
Man,
like,
that's all technology, man. That's all technology. We started to believe the bullshit that we were taught so that we could trick ourselves in believing it was okay. So somebody at some point said, yo, this is our word because we've been called it for so long. We should take it. Do you see any other culture calling themselves what they've been called to make them to defame their character and their being? I don't see that. I don't see, you know, like when the Jews came here, they put in Ellis Island the K on them so that they could be signified as what they wanted to be called from the American people
right.
here to diminish their culture, right? You don't see them calling themselves that. Do you see the Asian people call themselves the word that they were called in a racist term? No,
Mm,
bro. And if they did, it was only because they saw us doing what we were doing and thought it was okay. So it's still wrong.
right.
It's still it's crazy, man. We're the only culture that continues the BS. We got to stop. We got to stop at some point. You got to live and learn. Like, yo, how can I make myself better?
Hmm.
Can't continue doing the same bullshit, man. Can't.
So in our last interview, we spoke about your start with Dren Star and you revealed a lot, right? Did Dren ever contact you about that?
No, never. Nothing that's been spoken about. No comments. Nothing's been said. You know. And I still see some capping going on, and I just like
Wait. Do you know if he saw it though? If he saw the
I don't
videos?
I, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I sure was tagging him in every single damn post. So I
Uh,
thought,
I,
I
I
hoped he
I
saw it.
posted I posted on my story every day, and
Right,
he's following me. I'm following him.
right.
So, and I know it's people that are in the circle that been watching. So, I mean, come on, man, you got to be on the rock to not have seen any of that.
I know
So,
somebody had to send it to him, right? Like regular people that are cool with him that happened to stumble upon it had to have sent it to him.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
maybe
or
he
at
not
least
checking
mention
for
it.
Panda Chop like that, but somebody probably sent it to him. Um, yeah,
It's
bro.
funny, like I said, I see the capping, and then I see there's never any. See these people. I noticed they don't want to mention your name. I guess they feel like they're gonna put you in a famous position or something, by saying your name. I noticed that even with Cube, they call him the other guy.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, that's you bring it even more, of a spotlight when you do that, like, because it's making it seem like it's some reason why. Why are you doing that? What are you scared of? What are you worried about? If you're the empowered person that's doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you in that position, what are you worried about? Why don't you address the situation accordingly? That's what men do, right? So I don't understand it, man. Like, I'm not, again, it came to me as a realization of, yo, listen, me personally, I don't need the vindication. That's something you asked me. I don't need it. It's not something I was looking for. I said, yeah, if it happened, would it be nice? Yeah. Just because, man to man, that's the way we supposed to move. Now, it's not even like I went around the corner and said these things to you and not brought it to this person's attention. I did that prior to the situation I had with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what led me to the situation with you, because I felt like it kept continuing to happen after I was addressing it. So, how some people say, well, you got my number, you could reach out to me. I did that many times before. And I get it.
And what did
Like,
he say?
oh, we could sit down, like I said, we could sit down, have a drink, talk about it. We could, go out, this and that. And it's just like, I'm just speaking about it right now, just to let you know how I feel. And then it happened again. And I spoke about it. And then after the second time, I said, I'm not speaking about it again. Because I see this is going to be a continuous thing that's happening. And again, it's things that are like, now it's not even about like stories with me or anything. It's just things that I see that I've been involved in. That I'm like, that didn't happen. That wasn't that way. That's not how this went. But it sounds good to make you put you on the pedestal.
He
And
making the
whatever,
cinematic
man.
cut. You know how like
Yeah,
when things
yeah.
translate better to film if you put it a certain way, he doing it that way basically.
It's crazy. And I watch it and I'm like, wow, wow. All right, wow. Do
Wait,
what you
you mean to
do,
tell
bro.
me they ain't gonna have a role for you in his biopic? they gonna
Oh
have someone
man.
play Smooth?
Yo, listen,
No, you know
man.
who could play you? Omar Gooding could play you.
Yeah, yeah. Yo, listen, man. If they do it, they'll probably put me in there for a split second just because they don't want me to get too much shine,
Right.
whatever.
No, you know you're
Um,
right though. When people do the other thing, like they afraid to mention you and stuff like that, is because they don't want the questions that are gonna follow with that.
yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah. And I'm cool with that. I got an open door for whatever you want to speak about. Like we could do it because I have nothing to hide and I have nothing to lie about. I'm not embellishing. I have nothing but truths that can be backed up. It's funny. I saw another guy's interview, not this guy we talk about, but somebody else affiliated with the crew. And I'm listening. I'm like, wow, that's actually a reference to what I was talking about in Pandas, and it actually solidifies everything that I said. And I was just like, I think it was, I think it was Tony, and I believe he was probably on either Vlad or the Art of Dialogue, one of those two. And he's telling a pun story. And the kid he was talking about in the story was the same kid that I was telling you about that Pun had living with him and had taken us to
Pretty
the
sure it was Vlad. I don't think
the
Art of
motors.
Dialogue has interviewed him.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we went to the motor shop and he bought the four wheeler for the that was his four wheeler to have the
Right, right. I
ATV, but
seen
it
that.
actually ended up on the album cover. So that same kid he was talking about in his story. So I'm like, yeah, you see, this is how the lines of truth always intersect.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the lines of lies, they always go the other way. There's never any intercept because you're just making shit up as you go along to make it sound good and cinematic for the people that you're around. And they don't know any different because there's nobody to defend what you're saying. A lot of these people aren't here anymore. They don't have the platform to speak about the truth. So you can say whatever the hell you want to say, and you're not worried about the ramifications of what you're saying because there's no one to check you. I'm here. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to let people know that's bullshit. That didn't happen. This is the truth. And stop lying. There's no reason to lie.
Mm,
You're already in a position. So what do you need to lie for? You know?
right.
I don't know, man. I think it's a character flaw.
So speaking of Tony, on our last interview, you touched briefly on Cuban and Tony, but after the interview, you said you wish you had spoke more on that situation.
Because there's a couple things that I thought about after the fact, and I'm like, I'm not here to hurt anyone. I don't want to, you know, say anything bad to destroy anyone's character. But
I was there
if you
when the
look
whole
at
dick slap happened.
I wasn't there for that. I did. I don't. I just heard that
Allegedly, I'm
again.
sorry. Okay.
Yeah, allegedly, I heard that. I don't know what happened there, but I do recall moments where Cuban had a chance to put hands on him and wanted to, and we stopped that from happening. And Cuban had every right to. And then I see how he talks about like how he was, down with Joe and he met Pun later, and that was like an affiliation that wasn't his foundational affiliation. That's all lies, man. He was part of what was called the foundation. And when Pun passed, his career stopped. He was hanging with me almost every day. And it was the time that he called me and was just like, yo, Smooth, I can't come through because, I don't want him to rough me up. I don't want no problems. And hearing like the things that he's saying now, it bothers me because it's like 70 or 80% of Cuba's album that was supposed to come out, he was on. What have you seen this man do for him musically in all these years? Why hasn't he come out with any music? Why isn't he on any of these songs? Where are the songs that he supposedly now is put in position from this person to become a success? Why has he done that for him? It's been over 20 years now. And the successful songs.
Wait. Okay. You're going too fast. Okay. So first of all, what do you mean there were situations where you had to stop Cuban from beating him up? And
Cuban wanted to put hands on him. Cuban was upset.
I know, but you can't go into specific detail about like what happened though.
Cuban just felt disrespected because he was trying to choose that side. And this is at the time when the 24 Karat album Gold had already got solidified. It wasn't coming out. He was dropped. The cutting had happened. Yada, yada, yada.
Gotcha.
All these things had happened. While those things transpired, after they happened, Tony was hanging out with us during the course of all of that, right? Then when it happened, Cube started coming around. Cube started recording at Pirate Recordings with us. Cuban was there. Tony was there as well. But at this time, when he started seeing that he was riding with the other side, he wasn't with that. So Q was ready to put the beats on him. So he went and approached him and actually had him in the chokehold and the whole nine. They had to be stopped by the crew, our crew. And at that point, Tony didn't feel comfortable coming around anymore. So he called me and said to me, yo, I want to come by. I want to come through, but, I'm scared that he's going to put hands on me and I don't want no problems. So those are some of the things that I wanted to say, but I didn't say. Only reason why I feel comfortable saying that because I'm looking at the whole way that he played this out. And again, this man gave you all the love. He put you in position to be successful.
Took a knife for you. Like all
on top of taking a knife, his album was your album. He used to say that to me. He used to say, like, yo, his album, I wanted it to come out because that was me coming out. That was like my album. If that album would have dropped, I would have been dropping. Then that's when 100% came out. He was on top of the world. Pun was already passed away. So that would have been a segue for him to continue on for the next 2 or 3 years, but it didn't come out 24K, right? So now,
but what's interesting though is that I heard Tony tell a story recently where he was saying that him and Pun had a conversation saying that, yo, twin, we gonna use my album as a way to like uplift you and put you on and stuff like that. But it really seemed like that was a story about Cuban. Then Cuban was trying to do that for him.
They both were doing it for him, to be honest. Because if you listen to that last album, he's on a lot of tracks. He's I'm Laughing at You, right. 100%. He's on a lot of these songs that he's the person that would have been on tour with him performing this. And then Cuban would have came out with his album. He would have continued performing. It would have been a segue for him to come out with his own album. So again, he started doing things with Sony after that. He had a couple of things that he had bubbling, didn't pan out.
Wait. Before we get into that, okay? So when you saw Cuban having him in the chokehold, what is your immediate reaction?
These are brothers that I don't want to see that happen with. But at the same time, you're like, you don't know what's going on. Why is this? What, like, the intensity, you understand later. At the moment, because they had so much that they grew up with. Again, I'm learning this as I go along with them of their history at that time. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know about him getting stabbed for him and all that at that time. I knew he got stabbed, but I didn't know the whole story of what happened. So then you start seeing like, oh, this is where the emotion's stemming from. It's from all of this. And then he felt like I rode for you, I held you down, and you're gonna go ride with these guys that are against me. And at that time, anybody that was riding with them was enemy
Right.
because of what happened to them. So again, I was hanging out with Tony before Cuban was like dropped from Atlantic and all that. So when all that was happening, he would actually make little idle jokes like, "Oh, Cube's not coming to record with you. This is not on the level he's on right now." Okay, okay, he's not. Okay, I ended up going to Cube's studio and working with him at that time. Now he gets dropped. He's back with the Finn because he's trying to, reorganize and get himself situated because of everything that happened. And now they have their falling out. That falling out happens. Now Tony stops coming around because he's worried and scared about what could happen from Cube's emotions and anger, knowing that he's that type of person that's just going wild out. Now
When he
I'm with,
when he said that this is not the level, was he talking down on you or he's talking down on Cuban?
oh yeah, he was talking down on me.
Wow.
Yeah, he was talking down on me because that's the way he probably felt that, you know, Cuban is on a major label right now, and he's recording in his a different type of setting that's already solidified. Whereas, and I was building my situation and building my
Got
studio
you.
with people that were, making my name ring bells in the industry from my own credentials and my own integrity. So then when Cube came over, again, it took that was an opportunity that was beautiful and great for me. I was thankful because it was a great learning process and it was something that put me on another level as well. But at the same token, he had to stop coming around because of the animosity that was there between the two of them. So,
So you heard the fear in his voice on the phone?
oh man, yeah, it was me and him one on one. Yeah,
But he wasn't like
yeah.
crying or anything, right? Like he was just like
Nah, he
scared.
just was really like, yo, man, damn, you know, one of those. Like, I don't want no problems. I don't want no problems. Like, but I miss you guys. I want to be around because he was hanging out with us a lot, making a lot of different music. So I'm a producer and an engineer, so I'm producing tracks. I got different MCs come. Let's say, for instance, I had a song with him and Don P. Don Pacino used to come through on a regular. I put them together on the song. Just having fun. I had him on another song with Opera Steve. We were just doing different things, playing around just to get something going. And that stopped. He couldn't come around anymore. He stopped coming around. And I'm dealing with Cuban on an everyday basis for like 2.5 years after that.
Mm.
And that's where that went. And now, what I was trying to say as a segue from that is, where is the music? Where is it? If
Right,
this
right,
guy
right.
loves you so much and has got so much faith in you as a creative person, why has nothing come out when these brothers were giving that to you
So
on a silver platter?
right. So to add on to that, right? So you're asking where is the music? Why hasn't Tony Sunshine come out with an album at all, right? It's literally been 25 years now.
Yeah,
He
with
hasn't
respect
dropped
to Fat
one
Joe
single
being the
album.
person, Fat Joe's supposed to be the person that has the power, has the knowledge, has the give to give him that, right?
Right. But you know what's interesting is that, the Vlad interview you were talking about with Tony, at that time in that interview, he said that he had 7 different record deals,
Okay,
with Joe, right? And he delivered an album each time, but the album never
okay.
came out. So you know how many years it's been since that? I mean, it's been at least 10 years since then, right? He left Joe and he reunited with Cuban. Remember? He was with Cuban and who's my man from Philly? Oh, I can't forget. The one that you said that let that thing
He
off.
cracked.
Yeah, PD Crack. That's right. They were in that video together that one time, you know what I mean? And Tony was real happy to be back with Cuban
Mm-hmm.
and everything. But then eventually he fell on hard times and, people say all the drug usage and everything. And then he goes back to Joe, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
Joe's recent album that he just released, Tony is featured on one song. And last year he was supposed to put out his Spanish album, supposed to come out in the summer, never came out. He just did an interview recently where he said that he didn't realize how difficult it is to go into the Spanish game. I don't know, but really the stuff that he was putting out, it wasn't getting as many views. I also saw that he was buying views because I proved it too. And it's just like, it's crazy because, older artists, their fan base moves on in life because when you're young, you have all this time to support and everything. You can go buy the CD, go to the shows, and you live in that young life. You don't have responsibilities and stuff. But look at you, right? You just came home from work pretty much, right? You tired now. It's like, bro, you're not going to some performance or like, you got to think about, I got to pay for my kids' stuff. I'm not buying a CD. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like thinking about those things that were once important to me anymore, right? Because you moved on in life. So as an older artist, he's in a tough position now because you never put out an album, right? You got a little bit of work that people know you from. I don't even know if he's ever really put out a mixtape. Honestly, he's got songs here and there, and Tony is super talented, bro. There's no denying that. He can sing, bro. Like, you know what I mean? I always give him that credit. He's talented, really, But at this point, if he puts something out, I would be surprised if he sell 5,000 copies. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, he's an R&B singer, right?
But he raps a lot now. He tries to rap a lot now.
He's always been a rapper. He's always rapped. Always. He's rapped even when. But my point is, he's an R&B singer. So there's two things that are positives for R&B singers that aren't for rappers. One, you can have ghostwriters. No one's ever going to look down on you because you're just singing what the person wrote, right? So you can get that easily. Then two, with his fan base is women. Women buy records. Women are known to be the forefront leaders in purchasing albums and making albums pop, right? So you got those two things behind you that a rapper doesn't constantly have. And then you have someone that could put you in position to make all this happen. So it's either one, you are just lazy as fuck, or two, they're not putting you in position. They just letting you hang by. Because if this person is continuously putting out albums and they're older than you and they're successful, then you can't use that excuse you just used. That excuse is null and void because that same person can make a lane for you the same way they made it for themselves.
Yeah, so but see, but Joe has had consistent work over the years. Like at this point, Tony has never had a CD
but this
out.
Is my point. He could have been consistently on all that work. He could have been doing a little one here, a little one there, a little one here, a little one there until he opened that door. Why did that not happen? Because that person doesn't want you in position.
Well, Joe made him his hype man now.
Yeah, he's been there for a couple of years.
You're right.
Yeah, so I guess that's the way to keep him, under the wing.
I mean, you're making a little money off of that. So, I mean, at that point, it's like, even if Tony does know, kind of like.
But being an artist, you want to be in the spotlight.
Right.
You want to be, you want to be in the same position as your people in and be able to hold your own weight. Again, Pun came from being an underdog to being the overachiever and breaking all types of records. And he lined that up for Cube, which lined it up for both of them at the same time as well. That's the way it's supposed to go, man. That's the way it's supposed to work. You're supposed to put your people in position so that you can sit back and eat like a fat rat and have nothing else. You don't have to make any music.
Right.
You can just eat off of them. And that's the nature of the business. So I feel like it's something not right there. It's just something that I don't know. I'm not, in that circle anymore, and I don't know what's going on, but it's just something not right there.
But I mean, you can ask the same thing, right? Like Remy came out of prison in 2016. Okay. Her and Joe put out one project together, right? Platas o Promos. And after that, she's never dropped a second solo album. She only had that first solo album back in 2004 or some shit like that, 2005, before she went to prison, right? So where is her album at? Like, where is her work? I know Joe recently just said that Remy had recorded a whole album that's going to come out soon. But really, that many years? Nearly 10 years?
Something ain't right over there, man.
So it's
Something's
a
not
little
right.
weird, but at this point, can you blame Tony for staying where he is?
No.
Because it's like, even if you
And that's
know,
not why I brought that up. I'm
right,
not bringing it up to say that, hey, you made a bad decision. I'm actually speaking about, his boss not actually doing what his job was and lining him up to make. Now, let's say he did that and it just kept not working for Tony. Like you said, he had all these albums that just weren't right, right? Again, something ain't right with the equation, though. If I guess you're moving behind times, and you're not catching up to the speed of where things need to be to get him somewhere where he could be successful. I mean, R&B, he had that song. Tony, I should say, he had that song with Lumi D, and that skyrocketed. To this day,
right.
it's still like
She's
it's
like the wind.
skyrocketed. Yeah.
No,
So
actually, it's interesting. I just saw an interview recently of Joe, and Joe said that he had one regret, and that was with Tony Sunshine, that he didn't get his shine the way that he had deserved. That he hired all these people, all these best producers and writers for him, and some reason it just didn't work out. I don't know why, but that's what happened.
yeah,
But it's crazy. It's unfortunate, but it also makes you ask, who has Joe put out after Pun that has been successful?
nobody,
Right.
nobody.
Because it
Yeah.
really seems like after Pun passed, now while Pun was alive, he took the step back, right? He held the umbrella and everything. But after Pun
Hmm.
passed, he was like, I'm taking the spot now. Like,
Yeah.
I took a step back enough. And then to me, in my opinion, it looked like he looked at Cuban and was like, no, I'm not letting you take the forefront. You know, even though you're viewed as the ladies' man and you got the talent and you got all this stuff like that,
Well,
I'd rather be the one.
he was getting bags, right? When Pun came out and Pun passed, he was getting bags from that. And then Cuban was making decisions that he was going to keep the bag as much as he could in his own pocket, meaning he wanted to control the merch, he wanted to control the shows, he wanted to control that. And Cuban was like, "Nah, I got my own merch, got my own people that are going to produce that merch. I got my own concept of how I'm going to run with each show." So that was a conflict of interest, I believe, in his mind when it came to him continuing to get the bag from him.
Mm.
That was a problem. He was empowered. Cuban was empowered with the mind state of, not that I'm going to defy you, but I can do this on my own. I just need you to get me started. Pun already started the engine. Get me in the first gear, and I could take the rest. You know what I'm saying? And I
I think
think
he
that
felt
that was
threatened. He felt threatened
definitely
by Cuban, you know?
because he was already making moves to show that he can move past that. So I feel like any successful person is going to give you the map, right, of how to maneuver and let you maneuver. Why would you want to have to hold somebody's hand? And that never made
And
sense
he
to
was
me.
going to eat off of, he was going to get a percentage of pretty much everything.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. And especially like if it's less work for me because you're taking on the butt of it and I'm still going to be productive financially and profitable. I never understood that concept. It's like that crab in the bucket bullshit. Like let's get it. Let's get it together. And yo, if you actually become more successful, hey, that makes me look like I know what I'm doing.
But you see, for some people, it's not about the money. It's like, I just don't want you to eat, even if I'm going to get a part of it, though. It's like that control, right? He wanted
Yeah.
that control so bad. And like you said, where it's like he could have sat back and really ate and made lots of money by putting out all these artists and everything. He could have became the Latino Diddy, Jay-Z, whatever, right? Terror Squad as a record label could have became a powerhouse. And think about down the line how many Latino artists would have came along after that. Because everybody that was Latino at that time as an artist was like, Terror Squad's the shit. Like, I want to rock with Terror Squad, right? And then think about if Joe embraced reggaeton and everything too, like all these people could have been coming to Terror Squad and he would have been a way bigger legacy. you know. But now all you know Joe is for, as far as the biggest thing in the legacy, is really pun.
Yeah.
Right? But he could have
Yeah.
grown it to be so much more than that if he allowed it to happen, but instead he didn't allow it to happen.
Yeah.
That's where the real shame is from.
I still think that Terror Squad album came out. That was great, right? It was a great album. I love that. I still listen to that album to this day. But the timing of that was, I think, a way to prolong the 24K album from
Right.
coming out.
Because it was supposed to be
Should've came
24K first.
First.
Yeah.
Should have been. Yeah. So, I mean,
you know
hey,
what's so
man.
crazy about that album, the Terror Squad album, though? What song is it where at the end he's saying, "Oh, Armageddon album coming out next" or whatever? Armageddon still ain't put out the album now. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know Armageddon's done moved on, and you know, he's not doing music anymore. He's working a, you know, regular job, living his life that way, and you know, God bless him and everything. You know, that's cool. But it's like, it just goes to show you that, man, like,
a lot of talent was in that room, man.
yeah.
A lot of talented people, man. I mean, and here we are, you know, looking back and saying, damn.
You see, like, so many people ask me, like, yo, why you hate Joe so much? It's not that I hate Joe and I don't even dislike him. Like, I really want to like him because he seems like such a charismatic, funny guy, entertaining, right? I just dislike what he did. There's so many things that he did that I dislike. You know what I'm saying? And if you're talking from a moral standpoint, it's like I can't get with that, you know? And that's why I feel the way that I do. So, I mean, nobody complain about all these other channels that's just dedicated to Tupac and Biggie and stuff like that. But immediately when somebody make a channel about Terror Squad, you got a problem now, huh? You know? Telling these, where would you guys would have never received so many of these stories, so many of these puzzle pieces coming together if it wasn't for me and Q working so hard together on this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
But so Cuban told me to ask you about the blanks in the gun.
Okay. So we had a it was a gun from like a video shoot, right? And we had blanks because it was just for movies. And we pulled a prank where we had everybody except for these two people in on it. So everybody in the studio, we talked and we worked it out on, listen, but these two guys, they don't know that this is a fake gun with blanks. So we're going to have my boy have an argument with another one of my boys, and my boy's going to pull out the gun and he's going to let off. It's just for, you know, comical purposes. We're recording it. They're not paying attention to the recording. They didn't even really realize that was happening. Let off the gun, and it was my man Fonz, and I think his nephew. So Fonz was like, at one point he was like security, little dude, but you know, about his business. And it's I think you might be able to even see this on YouTube. And my man was like, yeah, what you said? Pulled out the gun, shot him, and they cringe. Like, you know, they fall into the bowl and all that because they think shots was fired. And, you know, then we all start laughing and all that, and then they look up, but you could see the fear. And that was just like some of the pranks that we would pull, man, just to have a good time. Like, I mean, you think about it, it sounds kind of cool and funny, but that's some scary shit when you don't know what's going on. And you're in a very close environment with people shooting at each other. So that was just like some of the things we would do, you know, because B was a prankster.
Mm-hmm.
So B like kind of like, he kind of created that prank mode in us, and then we just ran with it on different levels. And that was one of the biggest pranks that we pulled, and it ended up, and there was no like internet really popping at that time, so it ended up coming out later. Somebody dumped it on YouTube, and it just became something that people. At one point, we had a public access show, so we would play that on the public access show, and we would get callers. Well, you guys are stupid. Why would you do something like that? You know, you guys could endanger this one and that one, you know. And we even have fun with those callers, you know, because it's like, are you not getting it? This is just like we all know each other, and it was a prank. Nobody got hurt. There was no, real bullets. But when you look at it visually, even that people watching was kind of scared. Like, yo,
Mhm.
guys are pulling out guns and shooting in the studio. But yeah, that was one of the moments that we all had a good time. It was Cuban session, so it was all his peoples there with some of our peoples, and we choreographed it beautifully. Like, it was perfect, man. Everybody was involved except for the two people that didn't know what was going on.
You know what's crazy is that when I interviewed Psycho Les, right, from the Beatnuts, he said that Pun used to do something similar like that, where like he'd have somebody balance like a fruit on his head or like an apple, and then like he'd pretend that he shot it, but like they would just like let the apple fall, and then he would, I don't know, put like a cherry or a grape next for the engineer and be like, hey, you next, we're gonna do this one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
I
something
can see
like
that.
that.
And him, the people knowing that he carried real guns or whoever was around him, that could be like, yeah, that's a scary prank, man.
Right.
I mean, we even got the wet dreams from Pun and Gilly, man. We used to do that. Like, you couldn't fall asleep in the studio. Anybody that fell asleep, you getting splashed with water, like real, like little half a bucket of cold water. And that was ongoing to the point we were in hotels on tour, and like the mattresses would be soaked. We come back from doing the show, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we stood all your mattresses up and put the fans on them because they were wet." And it's like, wow, like we got away with that shit, man. Everywhere we went, it was like you cannot go to sleep. I don't care. You fell asleep in the lobby of the hotel on the sofa. Somebody's coming with a bucket of water in the lobby, so no place was safe. And that came from no place, no place. One time they went in the back and got the bus boy, the bin that they put all the dishes in, and they filled that shit up with water right in the lobby, man, in front of everybody. Like,
Did you ever
can't
get
fall
Cuban?
asleep.
Did Cuban ever fall asleep and you do that?
Cuban was off limits. He could not get touched. He was a made man in our eyes. Like, yo, he's the artist. He could do whatever he wants. But everybody else was fooled. And I was one of the biggest culprits of getting caught, bro. Because, I'm working, I'm coming to the studio doing these long hours. So it'd be telling them, like, all right, let me take a quick nap. They got me on camera many times. And then we caught some
Wow.
people that were like with people that we didn't really know. They would be like in a boot camp session with buckshot or whatever. But yeah, you fell asleep at the reception desk. Bro, we put signs up. Wet dream, cold chilling water. Do not fall asleep. So even if you were a visitor, you getting got. Don't go to sleep, bro. Yeah, yeah,
That's crazy,
yeah,
man.
man. We got one on tape with Ruck. Ruck, Sean P.
Oh.
We with Sean P. We didn't get Sean P, but my man that was his right hand, my man Petro, fell asleep. And we used to take the CD, the CDs used to come in a spindle. It would be 100 CDs. So
Right,
the
right.
plastic, we would take that, fill it with water, and put it in the fridge. So unbeknownst to us, like this much of it froze. So it's a block of ice at the bottom with all this water. Boom! Shit cut his face open. The ice hit his face and cut his
Oh
eye open.
shit.
Sean P like, yo, your eyes bleeding. And all that shit is on tape. You can see all that. It's on camera, man. We used to just wild out with the wet dreams, man. We had such a good time, man. Great times, man.
Yo,
Yeah, I
so
miss that.
since our last interview, you've been thinking a lot and considering getting back into music or something, right? Like what do you have planned?
I don't want to speak too much on it because it's still in the works, but I'm working with my man Focus. He got, Focus TV, and he's been traveling internationally for a few years. And he's somebody that I've known since high school. And we actually own studios simultaneously at the same time. I used to loan him equipment whenever he needed. I go to his spot and work whenever I needed to go somewhere else. So somebody that I've known for like almost 30 years. And we've been just making music. This is his bread and butter, just making music. So he got me back in. We got some plans to do a couple things. Again, I don't want to speak too much on it because I wanted to just do what it's supposed to do. But that's one thing, and it's going to be more internet friendly. to say the least. You know, very internet friendly.
And I'm gonna be there in the studio shooting it too.
Oh man, I can't wait, bro. I can't wait. We're definitely going to collaborate. Once everything starts to roll, I definitely want to, you know, make some moves with you. You always
Man, I would
part of the
love that.
family, and we're gonna do some things together, man. So
Yeah, no doubt, man.
time is, you know, here. We're gonna do it.
Yeah, and we got to get Q there too.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
And I ain't gonna fall
Gotta
asleep
drag
in the
him out.
studio.
You good, you good, you good, you good, money. Don't worry. Yeah.
All right, Smooth. I just want to thank you for your time, man. Is there anything else you want to say to the people before we go ahead and wrap it up?
I just want, you know, everybody to take heed to everything we were speaking about. It's a lot of positivity in the conversation, and it's a pleasure to build with you, Panda. It's always a pleasure, and I appreciate your forum, and I appreciate your platform, everything you do, man. And we're gonna see more of each other, and we got some things coming. So just keep your ear locked. It's Smooth the Engineer and Panda Chop. You already.
No doubt, man. I appreciate you, bro.